You ready to rock and roll? Well, cool. James. You go by James or what do you go by?
Oh man, that's the whole predicament right now too. So James Phillips is my birth name, James Henry William Phillips. But then I went to the teams. I became Phil, and now I got out, and now I'm becoming JW.
JW.
So I don't know, whatever you want, man.
Well, James, JW, Phil, welcome to the show. I appreciate
Thanks.
you. We got some shirts, some swag. I can't have any guests going home without a shirt and a hat. We
Awesome.
got
Thank you
I don't know
so
if you're into
much.
cigars. Platoon Cigars.
When in Rome.
He's a Marine and served, did his time, got out, became a cop in, I believe, Michigan, got shot in the line of duty. I'm actually going to have him on the podcast. Got a crazy story, but yeah, he sends us boxes of these cigars. He started Platoon Cigars with a War Machine, and yeah, so all the guests get
That's
cigars
awesome.
built by and made,
Winning.
a veteran-owned company. And then obviously you get to go home, and you got about a 4-hour drive with some. The girls make every guest a fresh loaf of sourdough. So you got the chocolate lover one. So it's
You already know me.
chocolate
That's
dough,
perfect.
chocolate chips. You got toffee. They melt the toffee on the top. So it's not in the bag right now because they literally just pulled it out. So it's steaming
Awesome.
hot. So
Thank you so much.
yeah, man, I appreciate the drive down, and this is gonna be fun. So for anybody that doesn't know you, fuck, dude, you got water on your side right there too. If you want some water
Oh,
bottles,
sweet. Okay, perfect.
let's dive into it. Who the hell are you, bro? After reading the bio and getting
Oh man.
your request, I was like, oh, this is a no brainer. It is just. I mean, I'll get the little intro. We're gonna start right in childhood and then growing up in the UK and then the transition
Yeah.
here to the States.
I'm kind of I kind of been all over, I guess. I was born in the UK. We actually grew up on like a little farm right near Stonehenge. All the
Yeah,
rock stuff.
yeah.
So that was cool. Obviously, grew up in the countryside, and I've kind of come all the way back to that now. But
Full circle.
yeah, full circle. That's kind of where I wanted to raise kids. But yeah, I wasn't a military kid or anything like that. I happened to be over there. So, but it was cool because as a kid, we used to go drive the Land Rover Discovery up on the Army base that was near us, and so I'd go find old camo stuff and things like that, which I
Oh, really?
didn't know was probably planting seeds at the time. But obviously, I joined the Marine Corps at some point. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so
Stonehenge. What's your take on Stonehenge?
oh gosh, I don't know.
Dude. I'm a
Are
conspiracy.
you? Dude,
Yeah,
I am. I
I've
mean,
got
how
my
could
thoughts.
you not be now? I mean, everything that's going on. It's nuts.
It's not even conspiracies anymore.
No, it's not. It's true.
We'll go Stonehenge, but real quick, have you started your flat Earth chapter of life yet?
No, I haven't yet.
I'm gonna convince you.
Okay.
I'm a flat earther, bro, 100%.
Dude, I am open mind.
I'm gonna lose so many friends over that, but yeah, dude, it's just there's so many things right now that growing up and now that you're an adult and you have the internet and everybody's like, oh, this is this way just because, and I'm one of those like make it make sense.
Yep. No,
And
I am too. If you're not doing your own research these days, you're flawed.
100% on everything,
Yep.
all the way down to the education system, medicines,
Oh my goodness.
science, the history. I mean, it's crazy how people just go. And I get it. We've gone through life so blind, and we just trust everything. But now that the government's being outed on every level,
Yeah.
now it's like head on a swivel for everything.
know.
And it's like, oh, this is
I
this
think
way.
the UK is probably way worse though. I mean,
Really?
I moved here. I think I moved here like sixth grade, so I was pretty young.
10.
But I think they got like one camera to every 4 citizens or whatever. So they could Big Brother the heck out of you.
I actually just saw a video how people are now wearing these crazy masks, not a like COVID mask, but like these actual plastic, and they cover the whole face. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
what the fuck is this? And it was like now because they're all being tracked and they're anti-face tracking masks now.
Oh, okay, I could get behind that.
And that's so I dug into it exactly, and they're like they're sick of being watched everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And now with the way that those cameras can pick up, and I mean they could follow you through a whole city
Bro,
block.
China, they just send you a ticket if you jaywalk, and they got the video evidence.
Can you imagine living like that?
Dude, nuts. When I moved here, I fully believed in the American dream and freedoms and all that kind of stuff, and I think that's naturalized citizen.
Yep.
I'm on the winning team. So
Yep. What brought you here? Why did your parents in around 10, 11 years old decide to up and moved to the
Divorce.
U.S.? Divorce?
Yeah.
How
Son
was
divorce,
that?
baby. It was pretty, I mean, now I'm 37 now, and I think during your 30s, you start to come full circle of where you're at because your brain doesn't develop until you're 25. Just so
25.
you know.
That is a
Yeah.
fact.
And then I think you start to figure it out a little bit from there, But yeah, it definitely influenced my marriage and all those kinds of things. But my parents split, and then my mom remarried, and then came to the States with AOL. Remember AOL back in the day?
Dial up.
Yeah. So
That.
she was a guide for AOL chat rooms
Oh,
back in the
really?
day. Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what she's like. How did you guys used to talk back in the day? I'm like, well, first letters,
Yeah.
and then AOL came around.
Yeah.
The
And
whole
you had to tell
message.
people get off the phone and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yep.
Nuts.
Exactly.
So yeah, they came over with AOL and we moved to Virginia.
Did your dad
originally.
follow?
No, my real dad's actually still in the UK.
Okay.
And he was kind of a mountain man. He owned his own construction company and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I still talk to him every now and then on WhatsApp and things. But,
Okay.
yeah, I think probably a combo of a good high school coach and the Marine Corps helped me figure out the masculine side of things. So
So you got fortunate there. So your mom's new husband wasn't so much, or what?
I don't know. I think stepdads are stepdads. I don't
For
know
sure.
if they really claim you all the way or not. And I think he had his own things that he was going through and still goes through and stuff like that. So, you know how it is when you become a parent, you start to really see your parents as humans. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I know you get that. So yeah, but I think everything that's happened to me up until this point in time, I see it as fortunate circumstances.
Have to.
You got it. And I've got two beautiful girls. I got an incredible wife, just absolute alpha, and that's the best team I can be a part of. You know what I mean?
Good.
So
It helps a lot, especially guys, military time, law enforcement times. I mean, I think one of the biggest struggles for us is, and I will die on this hill, and I can say this because working with vets over the last 11 years and being embedded in the disabled veteran community, their body or mind,
yeah,
the biggest struggle, it's not the drugs and alcohol, which is number one or two and three, it's right there. But I think the number one struggle for these guys is having a weak foundation when it comes to their wives or girlfriends or fiancés.
it's the only team you got once you get out.
It's it, man. And then these women they either don't know how to learn and adjust after war or dealing with somebody after a traumatic experience, and they just start chipping away and they become cancer. And we're not easy.
No.
We are not easy to deal with veterans and just in general.
I thank my wife very often.
100%. You have to, man. And we're going to go through our phases where we don't appreciate them.
Yeah.
And we step on them. We just treat them like shit. It's just, and that's kind of our healing process in a way. But a lot of women and wives can't make it through that period, which obviously everybody has their own.
Yeah.
Unless it's physical, mental abuse. But it's tough. For some of these women to do it. But I mean, these guys that are triggered, taking their lives, get in deep, deep, dark holes, I would say the majority of it comes from not having that strong
support network,
rock, and just having a wife to be able to lean on and pick you up. And it's very important for us to have.
When I got out, we moved to Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Marsaco ate my first marriage, but wife, I always joke because I say wife 2.0 is, she's my soulmate.
You're not ready to be married till you've been divorced.
Yes.
That's what I say.
So I'm her husband 2.0, so we joke. She can joke back, and she's a alpha female savage, so she can give it back. But yeah, we moved to Salt Lake and completely isolated. Transition for me was, especially going from MARSOC, where that's all you consume, right? Mm-hmm. And I was in the conventional Marine Corps too before that, obviously. But yeah, it was. She was very tolerant. And I actually started dating her because she didn't even know we were still at war. I was like, "You're perfect. You've never dated anybody in the military, and you don't know anything. Like, great,
That's the key. Never dated a prior service member. Britt, my wife, she swore because she grew up in SoCal, and she's like, I would never date a Marine in a million years, which rightfully so. You know how it is.
Yeah, Maddie grew up in Hawaii, and I was like, you never dated a SEAL? And she's like, nope. I was like, okay. Sweet.
All right, this might work. Exactly. So you transition here. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna jump around.
No,
on
you're
you.
good. We'll jump all over the place. But so your parents split. You move here to the U.S. How was that? Because I have a 10-year-old, and this is a
Yeah.
very crucial, important time where developing friends, finding themselves, they're becoming their own little person, and then you're ripped out of that. Now you're thrown in an American school. How was that
Yeah,
transition?
honestly, gosh, it's so wild how things influence like your entire life. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But I wasn't doing well at school in the UK. I think at that age, beginning of sixth grade in the US, I was doing Latin, French, like the curriculum was
Okay.
out the ass, and they thought I was dyslexic and all these things. But I think probably looking back, like I was just a
boy.
energetic boy. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be sitting in that classroom. But it's funny, I wasn't great at sports back then. Like I had allergies and stuff. Like
Yeah.
my mom was always super artistic, so I was like into that whole thing, like creative mind space, like building things, and so I wasn't really big into the sports thing. Went to a private school, so I was actually pretty stoked to leave.
Really?
Which is funny, kind of looking back. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of like, oh, dope, I'm gonna go to America, like. Everybody's happy and hot there, like what the rest of the world thinks about America.
Yeah, it's the perfect place to be.
And we have vacationed to like Michigan a couple of times. My mom had some family there and things, so I've been to the States before. But then moving to the States, to the suburbs, you're riding a school bus, like all these things that just were so new to me. And then I had to fight kids on the playground because I was British,
Oh, really?
Which now I'm American, I'm like, respect, I get it,
Got to do your time.
Yeah, all the limey jokes and stuff, But
So you were getting it pretty. Did you have a pretty thick accent when you came over?
yeah,
Okay.
like couldn't hide it. But I've always weirdly been like very adaptable, and so like I will never forget the teacher was asking me like the answer to some math problem or whatever, and the answer was 40, right? And I didn't know that you say 40. In America, I said 40.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Very pronounced.
Proper
And so she kept
English.
thinking I was saying 14. And I was like, no, And I remember all the kids were like, I was like, oh, shit, I need to learn how to speak properly. Even though I made this language,
Exactly. Yeah.
But, so yeah, it was just all the girls loved my accent. All the boys hated it, and so it was definitely an adapt or die kind of deal. But, I mean, I figured it out. I obviously graduated elementary school pretty quick, went to middle school, and that's where I went through like the skater thing. Remember
Okay.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2
yeah.
on N64?
Oh, yeah.
Went through the skater thing. I think everybody listened to Green Day back then and spiked our hair and all that stuff. God.
Isn't it wild looking back at
Hilarious.
you?
But you've talked about before, I heard your podcast. We were the kids that went to the cul-de-sac
Yeah.
and beat each other up and lit fires and
Yes.
stupid stuff, right? Like
Your parents would drive around and look for all the
look
bikes
for
in
the
the front
bikes.
yard.
Exactly.
That was
dude.
it every
Yeah.
time. Where
And
were all the
I-
bikes?
And I remember that. I remember getting back from school. You do your homework on the bus so you could go play with your friends, and then you just go do hood rat stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And we got in stupid trouble, like all kinds of dumb stuff, and it's funny though. There was actually a homeschool kid on the street, and everybody made fun of him and things like that. And now,
Times
full
have
circle,
changed.
I'm like, things are different now.
Times have changed.
Yeah. So, but middle school, middle school was obviously an interesting thing. But the biggest influence in middle school was, do you remember the pacer? It was like the fitness test where you had to run from one side of the gym to the other before it beeped.
No,
So I guess that's the thing in Virginia.
never had that.
And it would beep faster and faster and faster, and all the kids have to make it to the other line before it beeped.
Oh, so you're racing. Okay.
So it's like an attrition thing.
Okay.
And I ended up like setting some middle school record in that, and they were like, you should go try out for the track team. And I was like, okay, I guess. I've been asthmatic my whole life, like not really
Yeah.
like a runner.
You're like, what the hell's a track team?
So we showed up for like the 8th grade one time. Like you didn't practice at all. Like you just showed up for the meet and did a race, right? And I think I ran like the 400 meters. And they were like, "Oh, good job, kids!" And then he went to high school, right? And so, and middle school for me, we're still dealing with divorce and all those things, and I was obviously a pretty angry kid, and looking back on all that. But freshman year of high school, my mom dropped me at track practice. And it was probably the best thing she ever did for me. Because I think I was definitely starting to get to that point of like a boy without a dad and all those kinds of things. And
Starting
like,
to set in.
Yeah, and trying to just figure it out. Mm-hmm. Especially now as a parent looking at my girls and like where they're going to be. You know, there's definitely some major landmarkers there, you know. And so freshman year of high school, I went to track practice, hated it. Like, bro, why are we running around everywhere? You know, like this made no sense to me, right? And I hadn't really done athletics leading up to that point.
So this got you just running all over.
Dude,
You can't figure out why.
But the crazy thing is, divine intervention, the coach was English. He was from England.
Okay.
So he coached Tiller, and his name was Phil, which is funny too. He was a younger guy in his mid-20s, and he really took me under his wing.
Yeah.
You know, and he knew that stuff was going on at home. And looking back, it's like, man, you were like 24, 25, and you were letting me live with you and your girlfriend in your house, like pretty wild, you know?
Really?
Like, what a cool human being.
Your parents were cool with this?
Well, they just dumped me off when they had to go do custody trials and all those kinds of things. You know?
Oh, because were they still traveling back
Yeah,
to
they
the
were
UK?
still doing a lot of court stuff.
And they would just leave you with your coach?
Yeah.
Tell me that shit would fly these days.
No. You'd have to be fucking vetted. You know what I mean?
Even then, yeah.
I'm going to probably install some stuff. You know?
Yeah.
But, man, rad human being and really helped shape me through high school. And I, dude, lived, breathed, and died track and field.
Really?
We won states my senior year. I was the captain.
That's
I got
fun,
a scholarship
isn't
to
it?
college, like all that stuff. But I mean, no dating, nothing. I used to walk around with Camelback, Birkenstocks. And I like took ice baths every night. Right, that wasn't even a thing back then.
Yeah.
I was reading articles. Summer going into my senior year, I was doing 100-mile weeks. Like a lot of it on your own in the summer. So just fully dedicated, focused, committed.
That sounds miserable.
Yeah, but for me, I think as a young kid, or especially a young boy,
That was
needed
your
to get that
outlet?
out, dude. That was my mental.
Yeah.
I funneled all anger, and I didn't drink in high school.
Yep.
You know, I funneled everything into that sport. And it's funny, one of the dudes I raced a lot in high school and senior year, Matthew Senshowitz, he actually has won Olympic medals now. You know, like,
Oh, really?
Which is cool because I mean. And I'm sure it's the same that you instill with your girls now. It's definitely something I'll instill with mine. Is like, hey, nothing is impossible. If you want it bad enough, you can make it happen.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like nothing is out of your reach. The only thing is how hungry are you?
How bad do you want
You
it?
know? And that was me. I didn't come from an athletic family. I didn't do it before, you know, and I just read books. I had posters. I just obsessed, you
Yeah.
know. And really, I think that mental fortitude that track and field instilled in me at an early age with that coaching was not only the unconquerable, but doing things that suck, you know, for long-term results.
You probably got really lucky because I feel, especially when you watch kids in split homes,
Yeah.
I'd say the majority of them take the anger route, don't know how to process what's going on, how to express what's going on, and that's when these kids start getting in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, boys and girls, they start drugs, sex, rebelling, all that stuff. And then there's a few that take that athletic route or, you know, the creative side of the mind, and they focus and put all that energy into that. I mean, who knows if your mom wouldn't have dropped you off
Oh, I know. I don't know where I would have
the
gone.
route. I mean, and that's all it takes is this, you know, some divine intervention
Yeah.
moment or parents watching and being like, hey, we need to get this kid in something now. And
Yeah.
that, I mean, that set the path.
Because middle school is rough. You know,
For
middle
sure.
school is a lot of like, you got to pick and all these kinds of things. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only boy, middle child, you know, so like really didn't have male role models,
So
right?
you
I'm
grew
not
up with
even
two,
fighting
an
with my
older
brothers.
and younger sister?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
You know?
miserable.
So like,
I feel that.
you gotta watch boy meets world and like Notebook and all that kind of stuff.
It doesn't
you know,
change
right?
now that
Like,
you're a girl dad,
yeah,
bro. I got a
know.
girl
But
dog.
at least I'm secure, you know.
For sure, but God, yeah, you saw my dog when it came in. Wearing a stupid ass sweater, and
Yeah.
I'm just surrounded.
Yeah, it gets pretty out of hand. I haven't had to paint my nails yet, but we're
You'll
only
do it,
one
you
in
know.
3, so it's coming.
I used to be that guy, like, look at this fucking guy with his painted nails, and now it's like, 'cause, you know, when they're that, I don't know how old your kids are. Mine have grown out of that stage, thank God, or they
Yeah.
want to fill in tattoos, and you're
Oh
just
yeah.
like laying there, like, all
No,
right, come
we
on.
got Margot and Maisie because both of their initials are MVP because I'm a child.
That's cool.
You know,
Yeah.
sports rosters. But Margot's 3.5 and Maisie just turned 1. So
Those are fun ages.
we are in it right
You're
now.
in
But
it.
man, it's the whole reason we're here.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
It's incredible. So, high school, you find this passion of track and field that you probably had no idea even
Yeah.
existed.
No clue.
And you ended up winning a state championship in high school, and that helped you get a scholarship in the college.
Yeah. So actually, we won states in the fall of my senior year, and that was obviously a huge thing for us too because I don't think the school had won states in a long time.
Okay, so it was a
know?
big deal.
So it was a big deal. And we kept coming pretty close, and a lot of strategy went into it, and all these things. And for me, I didn't understand that there was a lot of leadership for me that senior year. You know, that was probably my first real taste of leadership before going to the military. But yeah, guys that you didn't really want on a team, but would perform. You know, and you had to keep the whole thing together to make
Yeah.
sure that everybody was putting out, and they were all trying to put towards the same thing. And one of the guys, his dad's passed away that year, and it was this huge loss. You know, we were able to dedicate the season to him and all this stuff. And but yeah, on a personal level, that was all about team. You know, and then I was pretty hungry for a state individual title and all those kinds of things and nationals and stuff. And so I was hammering out miles even after cross country, getting ready for outdoor track. So we did indoor track in Virginia.
Okay. Which is probably night and day, huh?
Yeah, it's indoor track is the cross country is a 5K, so 3.1 miles. Indoor track, the furthest you're doing is you do 3,200 meters still, but it's on a 200-meter track. So you're just doing laps, you know, which I hated because cross country
imagine.
was my thing.
Because the scenery changes, you know. I feel like it's like running on a treadmill. You're just staring at the same
Oh,
shit
yeah.
in
The only
you know,
time I've ever
indoors.
ran like 12 miles on a treadmill was watching Shark Week, you know. So I'm not one of those dudes.
Yep.
But yeah, so then going to senior year, outdoors, first meet, I think I qualified for states in the mile, 2 mile. I was a distance runner. I used to be 132 pounds back then,
Yeah.
which is hard to believe now. I think
Right.
I'm probably 200 or something. And then I got a stress fracture, and that was the first time, that was the first big sports related thing I had to overcome,
How
right?
did that set you back?
And a huge mental thing that I'd never been trained for, right? And I didn't really have a lot of mentorship there either, right? Like me as a dad now, I would be like, yo, this is going to be harder than the training you've done until now,
sure.
right? Like you gotta, and so I literally ran every single day of high school except for 2 weeks every summer,
Really?
every single day of the year.
You were committed.
Outside 2 weeks, you know? So then going to get a stress fracture and having to take 6 weeks off of nothing, I lost my mind. You know, I didn't know
sure.
what to do. I was supposed to go to the pool. I got a girlfriend. Like,
Start a spiral.
yeah, rough. But thank goodness I already signed a scholarship with a D1 school for track. You
Girls,
know?
man,
So, bro,
they wrench at everything
dude,
at that age.
was my rule as a captain. Was like, don't be late and no girlfriends for the whole boys team. You know, and I used to get trashed for that, but I mean, we won the state championship.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, I ended up picking this. I had a couple of offers from schools. I ended up picking George Mason University based off of a girl, which is probably stupid.
Always.
But man, that was right before I joined the Marine Corps. I had a pretty big scholarship. People don't really. I just talked about this with a buddy whose kid just went to school for soccer. You know, I think for me, going from high school athletics to where that was an outlet for me,
Yeah.
to go into D1 athletics where it's a job, I didn't have a good
What was the difference?
swap. Just absolute on-spot demand of performance
Every time.
every time. And I think there was even more probably because I was on money. And I look back at it now, and as a 37-year-old man looking at that coach, and granted, that coach came from Stanford. He just won the NCAA championship. They wanted to do that again at George Mason. That used to be a legendary track school back in the day.
So there's a lot of pressure.
Julie Henner was the assistant coach at the time, and she coached Alan Webb, who was like world record or whatever in the mile and all these things, and at the forefront. You know what I mean? And so I ended up redshirting going into that freshman year and just trying to train. But man, this was not in it, and I was just like, before I was running for my coach, I was running for the team and all, and it was just like, it was kind of like a screw this guy kind of thing, Mm-hmm. And so obviously college athletic parties are pretty nuts, like we literally made our own fraternity.
How does that happen?
We got a house off I wanted to say base, but off campus.
Same
thing, bro.
Same shit.
Thing.
Same.
So,
Yeah.
We stole all these giant billboards from the football stadium, and so we had a basement. It was all black lighted with this giant beer pong table made out of all these bottle caps and epoxied, like black lights, everything, and we made Tau Beta Zeta for track boys.
Tau Beta Zeta. You were destined to be a Marine.
My God, yeah, for sure.
You look back at it, you're like, it was just training.
So we'd have mixers of all the sororities and all this stupid stuff, and the fraternities trying to get us kicked off and illegitimized because we weren't a real fraternity.
Really?
And we're like, here's Mags, we're throwing these boss ass parties.
Yep. Haters, man. That's all it was.
But yeah, I mean, it was fun, but yeah, school was slipping. Like stupid stuff. I got a arson charge for.
No shit.
Yeah, I ended up fourth story of this concrete staircase outside.
Arson charges are pretty serious.
Outside the dorms, I was going to be a Marine, bro. I drew a dick out of hand sanitizer and lit it on fire.
You were destined.
And the RA walked out the door right when that happened and was like, "What are you doing?" And stomped on it. And it's liquid fire. It goes all over the walls. And I was like, oh, no.
You're standing there with the lighter.
Yeah. And so then the other person behind her grabbed the fire extinguisher off the wall and put it all out. And I was just like, oh, my gosh.
Did you have to go to any classes for your arson charge?
No, the coach negotiated for me.
Oh, okay.
And it's probably why I ended up, not being his favorite too. The coach negotiated for me, and I had to do study hall.
I had a buddy in high school. We were showing off we had this long creek, and it had all these pull-offs and stuff. You can go down, and we were all partying and hanging out. And my buddy his dad was a caretaker on an island. So we'd have we all had cases of flares. We used to have flare wars on four-wheelers. You'd have a driver, then you'd have your
Where
car.
did you grow up?
Upstate New York.
Oh, okay.
On the Canadian border. And you'd have all your Carhartts on. You'd stuff every pocket full of flares, and you'd have that gun, and we'd all start in corners of the field, and somebody would launch a flare, then all the four-whelers would take off. So you're driving and
you
just...
You were going to be a Marine, too.
Destined. Smoking people with flares, and you'd catch one in the neck. And, had helmets on, but, we're shooting each other flares. Well, one night we're down with all the, little party going on, and we're like, dude, go get the flares. Go shoot some off. And loads one and cocks that thing, and and it goes... right across the creek. It didn't go anywhere. Just...
Oh, God.
And you just see the glowing. It's all marsh. You see the glowing, and then the glowing turns to smoke, and then the smoke's to flame, and then it's windy, and it just it takes off, and we all took off, and nobody said a word. The girls ended up ratting them out. As we're driving in town, the fire department, all the volunteer firefighters are blowing out there. It burnt down quite a few acres, just marsh and some woods, and but he ended up having to go to an arson class, and he's in there with dudes that are legit. We're kids.
Oh, and, I didn't even think about that. He's straight criminals.
I think we were maybe 16, 17. He had to go, and every weekend for it was a couple of months. He's in there with dudes that are literally getting off the burning things and lighting their girlfriend's cars on fire and shit. He's just some kid that shot a flare. And
Well, I guess I got away with murder.
That's why I was asking if you had to go to some classes.
Yeah, I did. Do you remember when the DC sniper thing was happening?
Oh yeah.
My college roommate Bailey and I don't think I've ever told this story on a podcast, but my buddy Bailey and I were in the woods behind our house, my parents' house, hunting squirrels with pellet guns. Mm-hmm. Bailey grew up in Weir's Cave, Virginia. He was a country boy, and I I think my kid roots are starting to come back, you know? So
sure.
we're running around just stupid shit. He's the one I was stealing all those billboards with,
Okay, yeah.
all that stuff. And so,
Everybody needs a friend like that.
right. And he's now a very model citizen. But we were running around the woods shooting squirrels with pellet guns, and we decided to cross over this road because there's elementary school woods back there, and they're public woods, and
Yeah.
they're huge,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we run across the road, go into the woods, start hunting squirrels again, and all of a sudden, like, my phone starts blowing up, and I'm just like, what the fuck? So I look at my phone, and it's my stepdad. He's calling me, and I was like, whatever, bro. You know, like, I don't live at home anymore.
I'm hunting.
And so yeah, and so 30 minutes goes by, and this helicopter brushes the top of the woods canopy. Like,
Really?
I'm just like, oh, weird. Phone's still going off. Finally pull my phone out, and there's voicemails. So I'm like, I was listening to voicemail. So my stepdad, he's like, dude, where the F are you? There's cops in my driveway. They're looking for you, saying that you're running around the elementary school with a sniper rifle. And I'm like, oh, shit. So Bailey and I are on the track team, right? So underneath this track kid thing, I'm sure it still is. We just wear running shorts all the time, even under your clothes, because they were what we were used to wearing, and then running shoes, right? Just total nerds. So what do? We just stripped pants, stripped shirts, and went and pretend we were on a training run.
You just come jogging up to the house?
Yeah, so we just go running, and we ran like 40 minutes. Like,
Did you leave your BB guns out there?
yeah, we hit in one of the leaves and shit.
Okay, yeah.
And so I cache-ate them.
Oh, 100% done the same thing.
My parents didn't want me having a gun. I had to cache it. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like, I got it from Gallison's back in the day, or Galligans or whatever dicks we used to be. But anyway, so we went for a run. And we ran all the way out there, and I was just like, do you think we should run back now? And he's like, yeah, it's been like an hour, so run back. So ran back another hour, started coming kind of close to where I parked my car, which is like in between. I think it was in between the elementary school, or maybe it was like a back parking lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we got to the car, nobody was there. And I was like, okay, sick. Let's just get in the car. You know,
Coast
so like
clear.
got in the car, like drove away. And then I was like, Bailey's like, dude, what are you gonna do? And I was like, fuck, I don't know. I guess I'll call 911. So I called 911 when we're driving back to campus now. I called 911, and they're like, 911, what's your emergency? I was like, hey, my name's James. I think you guys are looking for me. And she was like, where are you right now? I was like, I think it's a big misunderstanding. She's like, do not hang up the phone. I'm going to hand you over to the detective on your case, or whatever it was.
Like case.
And I was like, what the you know? And so he's like, hello? And I was like, hello, sir. I think there's, he's like, where are you? I was like, I think it's a big misunderstanding. I don't have a gun. He's like, what do you mean you don't have a gun? Like, you were sighted, like your car was there, blah, blah. I was like, we had guns, but they're like, they shoot the little green balls. Remember airsoft started to be a thing back then? And he's like, oh, like the little green BBs? I was like, yeah. He's like, do you think that was smart? And just starts giving me a life coach down the phone.
And you're in college at this point, or high school?
It had to be college if I was with Bailey. So it must have been freshman year or something like that. And so starts lifing me out on the phone, you know, and I was like, sorry, I'm so sorry, it'll never happen again. Like, well, nothing happened. Just went back to school.
Like it did, just rolled right back into it.
So that was like my first like major like run in doing stupid shit.
Oh God.
You know?
I started out at a pretty early age.
But about after that, I joined the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
You know? So
Why'd you leave school?
I think just the track thing. It wasn't feeding me anymore. I was just starting to become self-destructive. My grades were sucking.
Just wasn't fun for you?
Dude, just wasn't fun, you know? And I was just wasting money. And
I wonder how these college kids are now. You know, with this IBLW or whatever, these kids are getting paid, whatever the hell that's called now. It's like, I mean, you see some of the worth of these college kids and how much they're making. It's like, they're starting their career so early. And then you almost wonder, like, how long in the pros, you know, when they go that route, is that going to last? Because I'm such a college sports over pros.
Yeah.
Because those kids are still applying. It's still their resume to make it to the pros. So they're giving it all they have. And now it's these kids are getting $50 million scholarships and shit. Yeah. It's like, God bless.
I was just talking about this with a buddy too. Like, it's interesting too, though, the kids that go into sports, yeah, they're learning mental fortitude and all these kinds of things, but they almost get sucked out of society just like we got sucked out for the military. And we were talking about this in comparison to like cowboy life too, right? Like you usually go start day working on a ranch like right out of high school. And I think you don't continue to develop those life skills.
No, you don't.
You're isolated. So then when you dump a professional sport or a sport
You
or
don't even know how
a
to function.
you don't know where you're supposed to lay back in society. You know what I mean?
That's a huge problem, I think, with veterans,
Yeah.
especially, our era guys, the early 2000s to the mids. I joined straight out of high school, straight to boot camp, straight into a unit. We had some downtime and then straight to deploying.
Deployment.
And you're stuck in that mental age range.
Yeah. Your
Even
emotional
though
development.
your mental development comes to a complete halt.
Yeah.
We're developing other, your leadership skills and how to become a kind of a man, I guess.
There's
But
a reason dudes fall in love with strippers.
100%. Multiple times in a row.
Yes.
And you're just like, bro, like, did you not learn?
You thought you were special.
Yeah,
You're an idiot.
she loved you, buddy. Okay. But and then that becomes our identity. And then they develop this persona that's who we are. We're disabled veteran, we're grumpy, we're
Yeah.
Angry vets, disgruntled veteran, and then they get out of the military, especially the guys that do, 8+ years, and
Yeah.
they have that in them, and they don't know how to, like, okay, buddy, it's okay to
Yeah.
let's just turn it off. Let's figure out our new chapter.
Yeah.
Be proud of your service. Be proud of what you've accomplished. Like, dude, you're a Marine. We'll be Marines till our last fucking breath.
Right.
But it's that you have to find that chapter in life where you're like, okay, I'm a Marine, but like now I want to be a father. I want to be
I was
an
literally talking
entrepreneur.
about that on the way here. It's just, I think that was probably the hardest thing for me was the identity crisis.
Yeah.
I used to be able to walk into a bar with my girl and cool, go ahead, buddy. Like my wife's a hottie, right? Like, go ahead, hit on her. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. One, I know she can hold her own, and two, there's no way whatever you do trumps what I do right now. You know what I mean?
And you live with. I mean, bro. When I was in like my last couple of years, I was 290 pounds, just giant. Fought the world, like. Dude,
Yeah.
I would go look now.
Savage.
But that's who I was, and I built. And it took me a long time to realize, like, okay, like this is not me anymore, or this sucks. Like getting in a fist fight isn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys get stuck in that era, and and that's who they're always. You run into them. I'll deal with them on some trips, and it's like, man, how long you been out? I've been out 15 years, and it's like, bro, you're still this angry, and you're still
Bro,
like,
it's hard for me to grasp. When I first got out, I worked for a veteran-owned company. I don't think we need to talk about who, but I realized it wasn't serving me. When I first got out, I was a pretty hot mess. I wanted to go back and go do some contracting for selection because I was grasping for straws again when school didn't work out. And my wife was like, "Do you see how stressed out you are right now with this? Like even thinking about going back to that? Do you think it's a good idea?" Because I was pretty burnt out when I left, And I was like, "You're right. Shouldn't do this." So I got to go into a veteran-owned company, and I thought it was like perfect, dude. People just like, no, bro.
I had
rough.
the same experience.
And I try to give critical feedback to make the company better, and I was fully bought off on it, and just like got lifed out by a dude that hasn't been able to figure it out yet all the way, right? Like still holds on to that, and still I equivalent it to the high school quarterback that still wears his Letterman jacket at 40 something.
That's it, bro.
It's like, bro,
That's
you have so
exactly
much more untapped potential.
Yeah.
Life's not over, dude.
Put that chapter on a shelf,
Yeah.
wherever it is on your
Look at
bookshelf.
everything it gave you.
It's an amazing. I'm sitting here today because of my military experience.
Yeah.
You're sitting here today because of your military experience. But there's
Yeah.
a whole new world to be able to learn, and I feel that
We're the
hinders,
lucky ones. We get to chapter 2.
but it hinders a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Because they're so stuck on it, and I don't know how to express it and be like, time to let go, because it's like leading a horse to water.
Yeah.
You can tell them this all day long, but until they sit and really look at themselves, and you see these guys are like, man, I go to a therapist every week and talk to a counselor, I do this, I do that. It's like, how long have you been doing this for? Like,
Yeah.
close that chapter.
Yeah.
You're constantly talking about these horrible times or all the struggles or how shitty this was. And it's, dude, relive them all day long. I
Yeah.
love reliving military experiences. It's what keeps us, young at mind in that chapter of our life. But it's like, man, okay, like you have 3 or 4 kids. Let's be proud of that.
Yeah.
You have all this potential and you're an amazing welder or carpenter. Like let's focus on that. Like let's
Yeah.
be known for that. And but these guys, it's so hard because they're that Letterman jacket. They're the varsity blues.
Yeah.
Sit at the bar. Oh, I'm gonna play. I want to stay. And it's just like, cool, dude.
I literally tried to leave that company. I was like, look, I really, very humble, right? Like
Yeah.
I've always tried to like not have a giant ego, but I was like, look, thank you so much for everything you've done for me, like all this, and like it's actually what got me back into horses.
Yeah.
I used to ride when I was in the UK as a kid. So like, and that's changed my whole trajectory. You know what I mean? So I was very like, hey, thank you so much for this opportunity, and it was just like in your face, straight to the anger thing, which we've all dealt with. I get it. I understand now. And it was like, you didn't serve in the same space that I did, all this stuff, right? Like, I was just like, good to go, bro, And it took me a while to get past that, right? Because I was still in my transition, and I think I've shared a little bit about like the moose story thing, but I never quit anything in my life, right? Like the pipeline was rough, but like I was never even a thought, right? Running 20 miles on a Sunday as a high school kid, like I'm not going to stop. It's just what I got to do today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember in the pipeline from Arsock, one guy, we're sitting on the side of the woods and we're waiting. It was in the sear portion. We're evading. This car kept coming around checking for us with a flashlight. And we haven't slept in a couple of days. We haven't eaten in a couple of days. We're watching so these guys can try to sleep for a second before we got to keep running. And he turns to me with his nods on. I'll never forget it. I won't drop his name on here because I don't want him to be upset because it's not for everybody, But he looked at me with his nods. He goes, Phil, what are we doing? And I was like, what do you mean, what are we doing, bro? He's like, why are we even here? And I was like, I flipped my nod up, like PBS 14.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you got to ask that question, you probably should be an operator. And I flipped it back down, looked back out, and
Or you need some sleep.
yeah, you can't question it. You know what I mean?
No. You start questioning it. That's when the demon sets in and the seeds planted, and you just struggle from there.
So I mean, we all got our things. You know what I mean? I tell Maddie all the time, dude, thank you so much for putting up with me. Like we talked about. And I know I'm a psychopath. That's just how we are. But when I left, I was just like, man, I had a lot of bridges were burned for me after that because he was heavily connected in the veteran space. People that didn't even know me are like, oh, that dude's a turd. Bro, talk to me and I will work harder than anybody you know. You know what I mean? I like to think I'll outperform.
I fucked with that dude because I know who you're talking about. I fucked with him so bad. I don't want to say I humbled him, but we're at this big event and he comes pulling up in his stupid van and stupid fucking logos all over, all obnoxious and shit. And I had to go to my truck, so the guy drives me down to my truck in this ATV, and he happened to pull in. He's getting a ride, and you know how he is. And so he gets in the back of the ATV, and the driver of the ATV is a fanboy. Because he's a pretty famous vet.
Yeah.
Oh man, the driver, and he's in the back. I'm just so cool, and I'm sitting there, and I haven't even turned around or anything, and I'm letting him just tell how cool he is, and then I turn around, and I go, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm," I won't mention his name. I own so and so, and I'm like, "Well, what the hell's that?" And I acted like this dude didn't even exist in my world, and he got so offended, and I didn't know who he was, and he's like, "You've never heard of my company?" And I was like, "No, you on social media? What do you do?" And he didn't. And the driver next to me was like, "You don't know who he is?" And I'm like,
gosh.
"I've never heard of you in my life, man."
Yeah.
And so he got a little pissy over that, and
it's
you could just tell his personality right away.
But bro, I'm at the point now in my life where I'm like, I pray for people like that.
For
You
sure.
know what I mean? Dude, I hope you do the soul, because he was in the news a couple of months ago for more stupid stuff, right? That And when I see that now, I know who that is because I was there, right? And so when I quit school, which is what I think I was going to say, I was struggling in school. I went to school every day. I was having anxiety attacks with all the people. And like, I don't know why, right?
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
think there's probably sensory overload and it's a new place. I don't have my homies with me,
Yeah.
and like I was working my ass off trying to pass these classes. And I was like, school is not this hard the first time around. I was
Yep.
getting better grades partying my ass off and I'm not. And so I ended up quitting human anatomy. And that's the first thing I've ever quit, right? Like I, I, I about broke my ankle in the pipeline. I taped it because we had a fin that next day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the first thing I've ever quit was that class. But Maddie and I went on a hike up in the canyons that day, ended up shooting a moose in self defense.
How did this go down?
So there's this place up in, I think it's called Mill Creek, up behind the zoo in Salt Lake, and you can go up there and you go hike this on the edge of this kind of canyon deal, and it goes up. And it was wintertime. There was a ton of snow, but it was cold enough that the top layer was solid right
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're walking. I have my camera because camera is the only transferable skill for special operations,
For
unless
sure.
you want to try to take people's money for outdated tactics.
Yeah.
So we're walking. I'm taking pictures, and there's a cow moose and a calf moose in the hiking trail. And I was
Okay.
like, "Yo, let's just hang back, see what happens." They end up walking off the trail up higher up on this mountainside, and then it kind of curves around and goes back. And so we kept walking. I got my dog Porter with me, who's a service dog I got from Labs of Liberty, and he was pretty big in my transition too. But anyway, we were walking back in this canyon, and now there's a bull moose on the trail. And I was like, "Hey, we had a good hike. Like, let's just call it and go back." Because I know I'm smart enough that I know, hey, this dog could trigger this moose.
And
You know
the
what I mean?
moose will
And
stomp
a moose is
you
basically
out.
the hippo of North America.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so I have a 1911 with me, and because I'd seen cat tracks, and my lab looked like a deer. That's just how our brains are wired. Like, and so we're walking along, and now that cow and calf moose has come over that face and come down on the trail. So now we're stuck between
A bull and a
bull
cow
and a
and
cow and a calf.
calf. Oh my God.
Both combos suck. you know.
Yeah, we got some shit
So,
choices.
so and you've seen cow moose just stomp out a team of dogs, or like a
100%.
guy on a snowmobile, right?
100%. They pin those ears back. You're
Oh yeah,
done.
dude. So I was like, hey, Mads, just stay back here, Porter, my dog, and I'm gonna walk down the trail and we'll see if they kind of clear off.
Yeah.
And so I walk down the trail. They're about 200 yards down the trail, and the way this canyon goes is the trail gradually goes down, and it goes around a hill and starts cutting a different direction, right? So those two would come over the top of that hill and drop down onto the trail, right? So I'm walking down this bend to go towards them, and the cow sees me, and she takes off with her calf, and that calf's probably like a yearling calf.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, dope. So they go around that bend. So they run down the trail, go around the bend. I look back to Maddie, and I'm like, I was going to give her the old, hand and arm signal, and all of a sudden I just hear this noise, and I look, and the cow moose is running full speed around the corner back at me.
Really?
And on one side is a drop off, and this is all ice.
Yeah.
I can't get up it, and I probably got maybe this much room on the trail, and there's a sagebrush right here, and so I had already swapped my camera over to my left hand just in case, right? Like this, I was pretty fresh out of the Marine Corps at this point, and picked up my pistol, and you're not supposed to fire a warning shot, but I was cool enough in the moment that I just popped one right in the ground.
Yeah.
Nothing. So by this point, she's closing 10 yards, and I one-handed, because I had the camera, that 1911, and dumped everything else in
Really?
7 rounds in her chest. And then I fell over the sagebrush, and I pulled my backpack off because I had a spare mag in the top pouch, and I stowed my camera, and I was like, that was fucking retarded. And then I grabbed my speed reload, and like presented back. And by this point, she's walking past me, and I didn't have to re-engage. But like, it's funny because I didn't muscle memory for a camera, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Because we're so used to doing this thing. Like, what if you got some shit in your hand? Like we didn't train for that. So, ready to drop more into her. She's piss and blood, and she probably walks 10 yards past, lays down, and she starts like kind of curling up,
Yeah.
And I'm shouting at Maddie like, "Get off the trail! Get off the trail!" And I can hear Porter barking because I've done bird hunting with him before, so he knew the gunshots meant something. And so I am zinging, you know what I mean? Like, and
I mean, a moose is...
and you only get that from deployment, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, and I'm zinging. I'm like, God, I still got it, bro. Like that was the first thing in my brain. My foot started, post shit show, when your foot starts to tremble a little bit, I was like, woo, I still got it, dude. You know what I mean?
That rush.
And so I step up, I reholster, I start walking past to give her time because I don't want to bump her towards Maddie. Mm-hmm. And so walk down the trail, probably 20 yards, and these two old ladies come walking around the corner with these two little yappy dogs.
Oh, they bumped them to you?
So I was like, hey, guys, I don't think you can go any further. I just had to shoot a moose. And the one old lady was like, oh, no, they were coming down, and the dogs scared them back up. And so, obviously, she was stuck between people, right? Poor thing.
Yeah.
But when I shot that one into the ground, she swung her head with her ears back, and I knew, because I was trying to move at the same time. I knew she was coming at me. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like where she's just looking straight past for the trail. Like, we were target fixated. Mm-hmm. So that's why in that moment I dumped him,
bro.
So that was really epiphany for me, being like, hey, I'm still that dude. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that really helped me, I think, with my, transition, identity crisis, purpose thing.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I'm still deadly. I'm still that guy. I'm still capable of protecting my family. I'm still formidable. Mm-hmm. Now what? And that really came into where we're all at now, and like what we're trying to work towards, and finding that new purpose and being okay with not being that anymore, because it's still a part of us.
It'll never go away. But my wife says it all the time. She's like, you're, one of the scariest human beings I know, but you're one of the most gentle, loving human beings I know.
Yeah.
And it's good. I mean, I think for guys like us, we will never let go of it, but it's being able to put it away.
Yeah.
Know it's still there. We're ready.
Yeah.
But it's...
Yeah, I mean...
It's the past,
we live kind of out in the boonies now, and if my border collies that live outside because they're working dogs, if they start barking and I knock on the window once and they don't stop, because that's all it takes is me knock and they stop.
Yeah.
If I knock on the window and they don't stop, there's something out there.
Yeah.
And I'm halfway stoked. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
I'll take that pistol with a light on it, and I'll go throw muck boots on in my underwear with a big coat, and I'll go out there and clear the farmyard. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
But for me, I think,
it's a good skill to have.
It is.
And to be able
especially as a father.
These days.
Especially today.
Scary, man.
Yeah. But I think that's the difference, right? Some dudes just can't turn it off.
Yep.
And I think there's also a bad model of guys that get out and over glorify it to this thing of then trying to make money. You know what I mean? And it really turns into like, hey, but what work are you actually doing on yourself to be a better husband and father? Because that's who you're supposed to be now.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's like these become
what's
an
your
alpha.
New sense of service?
Become this alpha, become the pack wolf or the leader of the pack and all this bullshit.
Yeah.
And like I look at those things and I'm like, I don't want to be any of that.
Yeah.
I want to lay on the couch with my daughters. I want to take them on their little daddy-daughter dance.
Yeah.
I want to take them out on a date. Like that's who we need to be teaching these fathers to be. And with their sons, teach your son life skills. Teach them how to respect a woman instead of, but like these guys, they're going to a class and getting beat up by a Navy SEAL and paying $15,000 for it. It's like,
or still beating their wife and all this other stuff.
And then they go home. And I know some of these dudes, and they're drunk. They're fucking snorting cokes, a line of coke, and being a piece of shit. And it's like, cool, dude, you just paid to go talk to this motivational speaker.
Yeah.
And because
it's a hoax. Yeah.
And he's a cool dude. Why? Because he's got a social media following, and he brags about how he's an alpha. And I'm like, man, the most alpha motherfuckers I've ever met in my life. You would never know.
Yeah. I've talked to Delta Force dudes that just total savages. You know what I mean? And the stories they tell aren't the cool ones.
No.
The stories they tell is pissing themselves and passing out when they jumped into a wadi because there's 3 guys right there vacating.
Yeah.
And then they came to and shot them, right? Like, but like those are the stories they tell, and you sit in a room with those guys, and they're not running their mouth. They don't
If
need
you
to,
have to
they don't need to
learn
justify
how to
their
be
existence.
an alpha from an alpha, they're not an alpha.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at it. I'm not. I guess I am knocking it. Fuck all those classics. I think they're just the biggest crock of shit.
Yeah.
No, some of these guys are putting classes on like, hey, this is how you build relationships with your children. This is
Yeah.
how you get past those times of struggling and being able to focus and not take it out and point that energy of stress, anxiety, the weight of the world on your shoulder as a man, and not deflecting it onto your family or your children for
Yeah.
no reason. Those are what we need to be teaching these dudes instead of sitting in a fucking ice bath doing burpees all day and getting screamed at in a classroom.
Yeah,
And then you
and
get some stupid tomahawk given to you at the end of the class because you're a man.
But
You know, like, get the fuck out of
it
here.
all comes down to ego.
It's all ego.
Bro, if you can just have enough humility to I use this quite a lot. You know, I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you think I am. At the end of the day, we all get buried in the same wooden box.
Fucking A.
Doesn't fucking matter how much money you made. Doesn't matter what your job was. Doesn't matter if you're a piece of shit or a good boy. We all get buried in the same wooden box. So just dump the ego, bro.
I was that
know what I
guy
mean?
for a long time. You know, I mean, you get out and you have
Yeah.
that, like we talked about earlier. You have that image, and you talked about going from James to Phil to Philly.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm in that spot now where it's like, dude, I'm ready to let go of Bam. You know, it's like it's been my persona, the ego, everything that was built off in the military. I mean,
that was Phil for me.
exactly, dude. It's like now it's like, dude, like I'm ready to go back and just blend in,
You know? Yeah.
live, spend time with my family.
But I think it's different though.
Yeah.
It's different if, dude, I love this stuff because this is what I'm doing right now. This is what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about being a fucking dope ass dad and a fucking gangster ass husband. You know what I mean? That's what I give a fuck about. But that takes work, dude.
It takes more work than anything.
Dude, and there's plenty of work to do. You know,
every day.
and the more you just waste time being like, it's not me, it's you, and all this shit, and not, like, that's a hard thing for an alpha. You know, an alpha is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because you have the strength. You can, you are confident, and in that confident, you can be observant and all these things that you can bring to the table. But, to really become a switchblade, if you start to control that self and be introspective and realize your weaknesses and when they're getting a hold of you and all these kinds of things, bro, it just makes you more lethal.
Really does because
And then you're raising savages.
exactly.
You know what I
man.
mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you see the anger start to build, why? Why? What brought me to this point? What is so important for me right now to be feeling like this?
Yeah. It's what's worth it.
What's worth it?
Yeah.
Why do I need to act like an asshole in front of my kids right now?
Right. Why do I need to be right now?
What
Yeah.
you want to talk about when you start? Yep. Roger that, hon.
But I
That's a big one, dude. Why
Yeah.
do I have to be right now? And that's a big thing that I've been working on is because like there's certain things like I have to like when I'm like, okay, it's because of this.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, is it worth
but that's
it?
also as part of our personality, but it's also what's been brought out in trainingisms.
For sure.
You know what I mean? That's how we've been programmed.
And then when you talk
fix it thing,
programming,
too.
I
Yeah.
mean, you don't even realize it. It's just who we are, but that's part of putting that chapter away.
Yeah.
But then now we get to pick those life skills that are going to help us develop as
Beautiful.
a husband,
Yep.
as a
What's
father,
functional, what's not functional.
in business. Okay, do I need to explode on this? Do I have to go off the hinge on this shit?
Yeah.
And then once you can really start dialing all that in and like really looking at yourself as a true man,
Yeah.
with your emotions, with your anger, with your life, with stress,
With your faults. Yeah. All of it.
all of it, bro. And once you're able to do that, that's when things really start coming together and life becomes really enjoyable.
Yeah, and it's freeing for sure. But it also takes what it takes a lot of, and I think a lot of dudes can't, well, not so much can't, probably maybe won't or aren't prepared to, is bringing that understanding into your marriage. And like when I first got out, I quit school, that moose thing happened, Fieldcraft didn't work out, all this crap, right? And I felt like that's when I felt most isolated, and I was just like, fuck, what now? Like I have to have a plan because you know how it goes. If I don't have a plan, like
Get in trouble.
how am I supposed to act? Like and that's a conventionalism and a sophism, and so I remember I drove out to the dry lake bed west of Salt Lake with my dirt bike, had a Husqvarna, and I was like, yo, I'm just gonna go rip some single track. you know? And I got out there and that was my rock bottom. I was out there for probably 6 hours. I didn't even touch my bike, right? Like
Yep.
that's when contemplation started to occur for me, right? Of contemplation of doing the stupid thing, right? And that's the first time in my life where I've ever thought of suicide. And now looking back at that, I can see how a dude can get to that point.
Really?
I can sympathize with it.
Okay.
Because for a long time I was like, yo, you're a bitch, you know, you're just weak, you're selfish. I still agree with some of those things, right? To a degree,
sure.
but I can get to a place where I can understand now.
And how it creeps up on you.
It does. And it was I'd never had that thought for a second before, you know? But I think for me, I was an angry individual. I had no idea what I wanted to do. You know, I didn't realize the absolute incredible human being that God gave me that I get to work with, you know what I mean? My wife, and not honoring her or giving her what she should be getting out of a marriage. And it was hopelessness, right?
Yeah.
In that moment. And I think, and that's where I think the easy thing for a lot of dudes that they come to are like, oh, to be better without me, you know, which
Yeah.
now I've been through the whole thing. I'm like, dude, you're high. You know what I mean? Like that, it doesn't work like that.
No.
So I got back that day and I went and got a blood panel done because a buddy that was a police officer in Salt Lake told me he did. And so when I got blood panel done and found out all my hormones were jacked up, my testosterone level was at 290 something
Really?
out of 1,000. So I technically had the testosterone levels of like a 90 something year old. And so that was obviously causing a lot of things. And so
Well, it's a chemical imbalance, man.
yeah.
I mean,
And so I was like, dude, and in my head, I was like, man, I was hand selected for stress tolerance. And now my ability to handle stress is 0. Like, what the fuck, you know? And so I went and got on TRT and that helped a ton. But right after that, we had my daughter. And that was just like, that was God's way of just smashing me into a wall. You know what I mean? And I was never that guy that like was good with kids.
Yeah.
I would be one of 3 single guys that would go to the team barbecue, and I'd give all the kids googly eyes so they could stick them all to family portraits, right? And then we'd go to the bar,
Yeah.
right? Like I was not that. I didn't have a good example of how to be a dad. I had no clue, right? and even if you do, you have no clue when it comes, you know. And so, really, for me, I hit a pretty pinnacle moment trying to work through being a new parent. And I had a list above the changing station of like, burp them, change them, burp them, feed them, burp them. Like I had my checklist, bro, right? And I was there just like, yep, did it. It didn't work. It's still screaming.
What do I do?
What do I start again? Did it, you know, and
Yep.
I just losing my mind, you know, losing my mind. And it got pretty bad. You know, I won't sugarcoat it. Like it got pretty bad. The stuff that messed me up most from the military was, funnily enough, it was more so footage from devices that we got from dudes on target and the disturbing things you see on those, right? Like
what?
like women, children, fucked up stuff, right?
For sure.
And so I think for me, that was a thing that has haunted me the most. And then obviously, like, there's got to be some kind of mental thing there for like sitting on a cinder block listening to screaming for days on end in SEER school, right? Like, there's things that add up to screaming, right? Like screaming on target, screaming in videos, all these things. So screaming for me was just this thing. And I just went black, right? And I'm just in a complete reactive state. And so that was really when Maddie was like, you need to go get help, you know? And so I called the VA, and the VA said they couldn't get me in for 6 months.
Hilarious, isn't it?
Right? And got it. Dope. But now what? Because I'm actually desperate.
Yeah.
You know, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting in the subway parking lot in Morgan, Utah, trying to get help, you know? And so I called the vet center, and they couldn't get me in either. And they're like, 3 weeks. So I just hung up the phone. And they called me back, and they're like, we'll get you in today. And some dude pulled a string and did a human thing, right? Did a human thing.
You weren't just a number for once.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
So that probably saved my life.
Really?
The first time, and so I got to talk to this dude, Aaron. He was a reservist officer, which I used to bust his balls about, obviously. And then, but really, we just got to unpack some things that I didn't think were normal, but were normal for me.
Like
You know
what?
what I mean? Just the hypervigilance stuff, the fact that when I am under an immense amount of stress, I will default to muscle memory, right? I'll default to hitting that black and being in a reactive state,
For sure.
right? And he said, all the times that you've had that kind of a stimulus, you have been able to extinguish it, right? So if there's a threat, you put down the threat, right? If there's a problem, you figure out a set of steps to get to a solution, right? Like for the first time in my life with a kid, right? Didn't know. Now I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
There is no solution, right? You are doing
You're
sleep
in the
deprivation
trenches.
training. It is a
You're in the
it is a game
trenches.
of attrition. You know what I mean? But you
Yep.
can't quit.
No.
And so
That's what separates the good ones.
that helped me really mentally understand, because I have a critical brain, right? It helped me really mentally understand like what was occurring, why it was occurring, and what I can do to kind of work on it. But what it really taught me was, in the moment, it allowed me to recognize when I started to do things.
Yeah.
It let me recognize when I was starting to get pissed for no reason. It made me recognize why I needed to be right in that moment. It made me recognize, when I was starting to get to this level. And this is why the second thing I owe my life to is my wife, because she's able to recognize when I'm going through that, right? And I'd say to her, like, hey, look, you have green, yellow, red, black, right? Those are my colors, right? Cooper's color code, whatever you want to call it. I was like, if I don't sleep well at night, I'm probably going to wake up in the yellow. And if I wake up in the yellow and we go straight to this, and this that don't go right, I'm probably going to be in the red, and going to town in the afternoon is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so we started to try to stack things selfishly in my favor so that I could bring functionality back into my day to day.
For sure.
And that's really what probably saved our marriage, is her understanding that, us being able to have that communication, and us really trying on both ends.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Well, I don't have colors, but my wife's like, you're peaking.
Yeah.
She tells me I'm peaking.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, that means you're being an absolute fucking asshole for no reason.
And it's the most beautiful way that she could possibly say that, so I don't get mad.
Yeah. She's like, you're being an asshole. Then it just levels up. She's like, you're fucking peaking. And I'm like, am I? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. That's how, but it had to take that getting to know, and her knowing my language, my body reaction language, everything, where I'm at, why I'm here. It showed out. But now it's been a thing for a while. So now, right as I even like
but then you start to recognize, yep. And then that's taking the power back.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's where I'm at now. And I think that's probably why I got called to move more remote and start doing the ranching thing and everything else. Like, that's pretty multifaceted, but it gave me the quiet that I needed. I couldn't do all the noise. We live in a condo right near downtown Salt Lake, so I was just like constantly spun up.
Well, you can never turn it off.
Yeah.
Even here,
I nearly shot 3 homeless dudes. Like,
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Downtown Salt Lake is wild, man. Like, I got a buddy that was down there for a while, and I'd go visit him, and he's like, "Oh, just park it." And I'm like, "I'm not fucking leaving my truck there."
No, dude.
But then you go to like the Hunt Expo, and and it's like you go 2 blocks over, and it's perfect little Mormonville.
Yeah.
And then you drive right outside the what's that big park, and it's like Skid Row right down there,
Liberty Park. Yeah.
And you're just like, what? This is
Salt
downtown?
Lake used to be the shit.
Yes.
I used to go visit there when I was in, because my buddy Jake, who got me involved in Labs of Liberty, gave me my service.
I know him. I met him years ago. I think we helped out a couple of vets.
Yep, Jake Nold's mom runs Labs of Liberty.
He lived up in Morgan or Hennifer at the time. Yep. I don't know if he's still up there or not. That's where his
they
parents
still have
were.
a place up there.
Yeah, okay.
But so I used to always go. Nearly had a TBI moment. I used to always go to Salt Lake, and we go mountain bike and rock climb and like all the fun outdoor shit. And it was like, we used to joke and say like, Salt Lake's real granola. You know, like it was kind of like hippie chill.
Yeah.
Dude, during the pandemic, went nuts.
We were just down there for the 100 days of rodeo or 100 nights of rodeo, whatever
Okay.
that there's a big,
Yeah.
they call it. Do you remember what it's called, kid? 100 nights of 100 stars of
I believe you.
some shit. Anyways, it's a big rodeo that goes on for
rainbow
like
events that you go to.
yeah, right. It's a big rodeo. We had a booth down there, and we're walking out. Oh yeah, you didn't even go, did you? No, it was a little one. You would park in this parking lot, and then security would have to escort you out of this lot to cross this little wooden bridge into the arena, into the parking lot. Then you go through the gates, and that's when you were like safe. We're walking. This is just this summer. We're walking out. And I see this person all slumped over, and I look at my youngest, kind of fucked up, but I was like, "Hey, don't do drugs." Like that's what a dead body looks like.
Yeah.
The motherfucker was dead.
Yeah.
We show back up later, and they're have it all roped off. The person had OD'd if they were dead when we were walking there or not. But I'm like, this is why you don't do drugs. There are people sitting there, and there's rats running all over them as we're walking into this arena to go and have this festival and great time. And you're just like, what the hell happened in the last?
Couldn't be there anymore.
No, dude,
It was nuts.
No.
And then I found out they literally give homeless camps clean needles. Mm-hmm. Better you don't spread HIV than keep doing drugs. You know, it's just nuts. So we boogied out of there pretty hard.
I want to rewind a little bit. I'm having a guy come up that left the church.
Oh yeah.
And talk just because I had.
It's big where we're at. Is it big out here?
They're everywhere, but yeah, I mean, we don't really deal with them.
Yeah.
But I had a guy do a podcast, and he actually pulled the podcast because he was worried about the backlash,
really?
his family still being in the church. Because he outs like his whole experience growing up Mormon, going on a mission, all just the fucked up shit the Mormon church has done and did and all is doing.
It's kind of like the military.
Very culty. And so we did it was an incredible episode, and he ended up saying he didn't want to air it because he was worried that his family would get backlash. And I'm like,
it's pretty gnarly. We live more rural, so it's big time there. You know,
but I should just tell you something right there. Like, if you're worried about the backlash of you talking about your religion,
that's just between religion and faith, I think. You know,
100%.
Yeah.
And that's what people are like, oh, you're religious? I'm like, I'm not religious, but I have a relationship with God, 100%. And I'm a baby Christian. I grew up, my dad's a pastor, so I'm a pastor kid that explains everything. Marine Corps, tattoos, my lifestyle. And so, but getting back into it and everything, and relearning it all and jumping back in, it's completely different now, looking at it from that point of view. But I look at it, I'm like, if I was a Christian, right? Am a Christian, but if I was leaving the Christian faith, and I wasn't allowed to talk about it because I was worried about the backlash my siblings or parents were going to get.
Yeah.
That would tell me right there that's not for me.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like it should probably be opposite. There should be like communion and support and all this stuff because you're lost, not like
not the church is going to shun you and you can't come to you're not going to be allowed in the temple anymore. And I'm like, and you still sit here and say this isn't a cult.
The world ends, we won't feed you.
Exactly. So, dude, let's jump. I want to know your military experience because we fucking breezed by all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to rewind. And we'll jump back into the transition and all that good stuff. But I think for people to understand the struggles of what goes on with veterans, I obviously want to be able to hear your story and that these guys
absolutely
could be able to relate to it too. So, college, you're done with running.
Yep.
Why did you join the Marine Corps? I love asking people why the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Or just any branch in general, but why did you decide the Marine Corps? What was your reason for?
It has to be a reason.
There's always a reason.
Know? I actually walked into the Air Force recruiter first. Womp womp.
Really? Yeah. We'll edit that part out.
So I was at a pretty good crossroads. I was either actually going to go be a ranch hand, which is pretty funny.
Okay.
Coming full circle, or I was going to go join the military. And so went to like the recruiter depot thing there in Virginia. So like you get to have your pick. They're all next to each other.
They're all in one building kind of deal, or like a little plaza?
It was like a little plaza.
Okay. Yep.
And I walked into the Air Force one first. I don't think it was I think it was just the first door. You know, it was like your doors are lined up. So I walked into the Air Force one first. Like flying's been a thing for me. Like I just happened to go in there. And I will never forget it. It was this dude he had a McDonald's cheeseburger. He was a skinny guy. He was eating a McDonald's cheeseburger, leaning on his desk on the phone, and he gave me one of these. And he was like, hold on a minute. And I was like, hold on a minute. I'm your customer, mofo, you know? So I walked out the door and I went next door and it was Marine Corps.
Really?
Yeah.
They're like,
they were happy to have me.
come on in, son.
Yeah. Yep. So so
What
it's
year
in
was
Marine
this?
Corps. 2008.
Okay.
And so I could barely do 3 pull-ups
Really?
because
You're just runner.
I was just long distance runner, dude.
Okay. So you ran the 3 mile and what was your 3 mile?
I think I did a 14:50 something in cross country. So that's like hills and everything like that.
So in the Marine Corps, you're just breezing.
Well, and so I've been drinking a lot with stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, you're prepping for the
I hadn't
Marine Corps.
ran for 6 months. I think I still ran like a 17,
Which is flying.
which is flying. And they were like, "We'll give you some money. We'll give you a bonus." And I was
You
like,
were getting
"Oh,
bonuses
dope."
in 2008? Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So I was like, "Sweet, $10,000. I've never had 10 grand in my life."
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I barely have anything in my pocket right now. So I did 3 pull-ups. I ran a 17 something. My recruiter let me drive his Chevy Tahoe around while he was like off at recruiting duties other places. We go to Hooters together.
Dude, recruiters, no offense to
Dude.
recruiters, they're some of the grimiest human beings on the planet.
That dude got me good. Got me
Yeah.
good, bro. And so I went in there and I wasn't a citizen yet. I still was.
No
I still had a
shit.
green card.
You've been on a school visa or you
No,
just
I just had a green card.
Okay.
I don't even know how that whole thing works. I did it legally.
okay?
So I wanted to sign up. My mom was like, just, you can't go infantry, like a good mom, right? And so I was like, all right, whatever, dude. So I went in there and I was like, I would like to go recon. They're like, can't do it. You have to be a citizen. I was like, okay. And they're like, I was like, I'd like to be a dog handler. And they're like, can't do it. You'd have to be a citizen. But we do have this contract open and it has a $10,000 bonus and we'll give it to you.
Which was
Motor T, because the IEDs were so bad.
okay.
So, and it said 35, 31. I didn't know what MOS numbers were. And I thought, oh, it's got a 3 in it. It's got to be something good, right? Because I knew infantry was 0311. And so went to boot camp,
Paris Island.
went to Paris Island.
How was that? What time of year did you go?
Where did you go?
Paris Island.
Yeah, bro, rough. I don't give a shit about your hills, bros.
Yeah. Ooh,
Try getting eaten by sand fleas all the
You just don't
time.
understand, man. They warn you about
That,
it.
my friend, is discipline.
People don't understand when a sand flea bites you, it hits a nerve.
It's the reason why I live in Idaho now and I left the East Coast, because I can't do bugs.
What time of year did you go through?
Beginning of the year in the wintertime.
See, I went, I think, January.
Yeah, I think it was January, February.
I went January, February, and March, but they weren't bad in January. They started coming out in February and March. We started really dealing
I
with
literally
them.
remember staying in field just so they could eat, you know?
They made us do the runways, sand flea runways, where you stand with your arms out, make a runway for the sand flea, and you stand there and you see kids just.
Dude, boot camp was ridiculous. So I was a little older, right? Because I did a little college first.
Oh, you were the old timer at
and
boot
so
camp.
well, I wasn't quite that bad, but
Okay.
I was old enough to know that, bro, I'm not going to stand on this line and pee my pants right now. Mm-hmm. You know? And while everybody's getting hazed online, I literally sneak back and run down the banks and back of the bunks and I'd go to the bathroom. So I'm like, I'm not going to pee myself. Like, it's ridiculous. And then I get lifed out in there and everything else. So our drill instructors did a good job. You know, like, they effed us up, right? Like, when I left that place, I remember walking around a strip mall with a drink. I was thinking, I can't walk and drink. I just need to put this down. Like, they got me good. You know what I mean? But I remember we were drilling to chow one morning, and, you know, by that point, I was like mouthing the words to whatever we were singing, you know, or marching.
Is this like third phase?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I was just like pretty over it, you know.
Yeah.
And one of the drill instructors saw I wasn't actually sounding off. He's like,
Oh, you're just lipping it?
run that way. And I was like, fuck. So just start running. But I liked running, right? Like, I did college track,
Yeah.
you know, so I just went for a run around Paris Island.
You just kept going?
I just kept going. And so I was like, I'm not going to go back. He told me to run that way. Until when?
He,
So
like,
I
straight up
literally
pull a
went. I
Forrest
literally
Gump?
went for a run, dude.
Really?
I ran around the base and everything else, and I was like, dude, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And I was like, there's a lot more to this place than I thought there was, you know?
Right? Yeah.
So at some point I was like, I got to run back.
How long has it been at this point?
I had to have been gone for a couple of hours.
Shut the fuck
Not
up.
joking.
Really?
So I come back, I go into the squad bay, I kicked it, and they're all getting hazed. So I open the door up and I go in the squad bay and the drill instructor sees me. It was like the movie, you know, where it like zooms all the way to his face down the other end of the freaking squad bay. And he was like, you. And I was like, oh, fuck. You know? He's like,
this was over.
He's like, where the fuck have you been? And I was like, this recruit was running. He's like, you could tell like he probably fucked up, you know? He was like, get online, you know?
That's the best when you know the drill instructors realize they screwed up.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh,
Yeah,
shit.
that was the only time. They did a pretty good job. But
Parris Island's a fascinating place.
bro, makes Marines. You know what I'm saying? Does its job. But
That it does.
so yeah, did that. Went to combat training at Lejeune, and
Yep.
then went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I still don't know what my job was yet, really.
So you don't even know what motor T is at this point?
All I'd really seen up to that point is 35, 31. I
Okay.
I didn't even know.
Okay.
And so all I know is I got 10 grand, you know?
You're stoked.
Yeah. So, and by this point, like, I'm like, okay, I want to do something cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in the military now. Like, I want to do something dope.
You
And
don't realize you're about to be a truck driver.
right. And everybody starts thinking, like, cool, I'm going to be jumping out planes, I'm going to be shooting guns, I'm going to be doing some dope stuff, you know? And so, showed up Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and they're like, this is a school of motor transportation, and you're going to learn how to drive a Humvee. And I was like, it's a car, bro. Like, what are we learning?
Yeah.
You
How
know?
long is the school period?
I don't know. Long enough for me to get in trouble, you know?
Yeah.
God, stupid stuff. But that all cleared up, and then at the end of it, they assign you your units, and mine said 311, so I went to 311. But I thought it was 0311. I was like, sweet, I'm going to the infantry. No, I went to artillery. So I was with 311 and 21 Palms,
Oh, God. Okay.
but it was good because I wasn't at a truck company. I found out after I got to the fleet that like I could have just driven trucks, and that would have sucked. You know, like at least I'm driving 777s, and I get to huck ammo, and I get to dig holes, and like we're in the field most of the year.
But you're in 29 Palms.
But I was in 21 Palms.
How was that arriving out to 29 Palms? I mean, you hear you're going to California, you're probably
yeah.
excited, and then you end up in the stumps.
Oh man, they say there's a reason they say if you were in 21 Palms, you either become a 300 PFTer or alcoholic.
Yeah.
That is accurate. Most of us were both. You know?
Marines.
Yeah,
Marines.
but it's a training center. So, I mean, it was cool. We did a lot of stupid crap, obviously, like Lance Corporal Underground, all that stuff, you know. But, yeah, we were in the field. Every steel night, we'd shoot arty for all the training exercises, all that stuff. Like
Oh, are you guys in support of...
2-7.
Oh, okay. So I mean...
And we do all the BLT stuff on all the Mews and all
No
that kind of
shit.
stuff,
So are you guys like support for all that? So every what was it, Cax Mojave Viper? What
Yeah,
were they calling it at
every
that
single
point?
one of those, a Mojave Viper, every single one of those, we were shooting artillery for it. So
Got
we were
it.
out there the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, there was some good that came of it. Obviously, got hazed, all those things. We went on 2 Mews. We were supposed to go to Afghanistan,
What muse did you go on?
31st out of Okinawa.
30 worst?
Yeah.
So we did... okay. So you flew to Okinawa?
Yep, flew to Okinawa.
So Chris, that was just previously on, he did his Mew at Okinawa. How was that?
Horrible.
Why is that?
Well, I think just being on the boat for that whole time. We were supposed to do a workup for Afghan. They decided at that point that Afghan was too steep for artillery to replace with a reservist unit.
Really?
So it was like, oh, dope. Now we're going to go on a Mew. You know? So morale was pretty crap. And the first Mew, I was junior, so just got hazed the whole time.
Did you guys cross the equator or anything? Did you get your shell
Nope.
back? God, bro, that
Bro,
sucks.
just a shit Mew.
That I had the greatest experiences. I did 2 Mews. We did the shell back when you cross the equator.
No, didn't do any of that. The Navy hated us.
Oh, 100%.
And we were just in general quarters all the time, and we just got hazed in a well deck all the time.
Did you have
Unrolled
Amtrak's
nets.
in the well deck?
Yeah, but all of our trucks and cannons were in there. So you're like cleaning the cannons in there. You're like unraveling cami net all the way down, all the way back up, just
Up the
like
ramp
just getting hazed, you know?
What type of ship were you on? Were you on like an LP? Did the back of the ship go down? Like
Yeah.
it was like an LPD or LSD or some shit like that. I think they're called
LSD. No, I have no idea.
LPDs. But the whole back of the ship opened up, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it flooded and the tracks could go out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so first MEU, I mean, it's cool. First deployment, right? Like I didn't know any different. I thought it was cool.
Just strictly a MEU.
Just strictly a MEU. We went to Philippines, Thailand, Singapore.
Okay, you're a young Marine.
So yeah,
What we could talk about in front of my 16-year-old daughter.
did all those stupid
How was
things.
the Philippines?
Bro, the Philippines was nuts because all the reasons, right? My second MEU, I did not go out on port calls because I was seasoned, you know, like I just saved my money.
What are some of the things that you guys are doing in the Philippines? Because we hit all like
We did the whole, I can't even remember what it's called. Is it Walking Street?
I never hit the Philippines.
And we had a mechanic named Walker, and he was like a Wisconsin-bred little short, stout bulldog guy, you know. And this chick who's probably like 6'3" in a leopard dress comes out of the bar, you know, because they're trying to coax you into their bar to spend your money. Picks up Walker over his shoulder and runs. And as that chick's running by, she's got an Adam's apple bigger than any of us.
No.
Yeah, so Walker got stole by a tranny. but that is the Philippines in a nutshell.
Yeah.
You know, I think we were all sitting at a table one time too, drinking and you know, waiting till we got to be back for curfew or whatever. And a monkey came up and smacked the crap out of this dude in his face. You know, like just only things in the Philippines.
People, I don't think. You know, you watch like The Hangover, when the number, The Hangover 2.
It's just like that.
But worse.
Yes.
But amplified.
Yeah.
And I don't think like normal civilians could ever comprehend that.
No, we don't ever go to the nice places.
No. Dude, we went to Singapore. Me and I had 3 dudes. There was 4 of us that were at boot camp together. And we went from boot camp together, MCT together, schools together, the fleet
You got your
together.
crew.
So we get to Singapore and we're like, fuck, who wants to get caned?
Oh my
And all of us were like, listen, we got to experience this.
Bro, we had a dude like that. His name was Jeremy Putnam. Dude, he got in trouble because he got in a fist fight in Singapore. And you know they're pretty straight edge there.
Singapore doesn't play.
Dude, he got put in a jail cell at the bottom of the ship.
No
Did you do
shit.
that?
No. We were just trying to get caned, not
Bro,
like getting
bread
in trouble.
and water.
He got bread
put
and
on
water
bread
rations?
and water in a cell at the bottom of the ship. And it's funny because he's missing his 2 front teeth. So we'd go down there to like try to visit him, and he wasn't allowed to see anybody. And he'd always be smiling with missing his 2 front teeth. He said every day this guy would come to switch out for fire watch because he was guarded. And if he fell asleep, they'd rattle on the cage like to make him wake up. Like,
What
prisoner.
did he do?
He got in a fist fight drunk with a local.
That's it?
That was it.
Fuck, that was a daily thing for us.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe he did worse. That's all that we were privy to. That's all Lance Corporal Underground found
Bro,
out.
Singapore, we were in Singapore, and I had one of my best. He lives in Coeur d'Alene now. This dude is hilarious. He was with me for this night. Reber there was a few other dudes. Anyways, she knows a couple of these guys. I've met them, buddies of mine. We're at this bar, and it's like 11. Curfew.
Yeah.
So for everybody listening, a MEU is a Marine Corps Expeditionary Unit. There's 3 ships and a submarine to this MEU.
Yep.
You have the battleship, which is the flag deck. That's where the carrier, all the jets are on and off of. Then you have like a medium-sized ship, which was whatever. And then you have like the LPD ships, which was recon, amtrackers, grunts, artillery.
Yeah.
All the delinquent.
Main package of idiots.
You're absolute idiots of what make the Marine Corps stuck on one ship
Yeah.
with like 4 women in the Navy. That was all we had. So we'd pull into these ports, and you got to imagine like just the most testosterone.
You've been on boat forever, going
Months on
nuts,
end.
You know.
So we're in this bar, and and when the ships pull in, they just besides Hong Kong, most of the ships just pull up to a pier, and they're like, "Okay, see you at midnight for junior enlisted Marines. You have to be back by midnight. If
Right.
certain ranks, overnight libo and all that shit, whatever. And if you're late, you're done. And then what happens is
You're not going anywhere the rest of the meal.
yeah, you then become a libo risk.
Yeah.
And then you still have all these other countries you're about to experience. And if you become a libo risk, you're not allowed to get off.
Yeah.
So it's very important that you get back in time. We're all at this bar, and I look at my watch, and it's like 11:40, and we're in Singapore. And I start grabbing my buddy. I'm like, get the fuck out. We got to go. We got to go. And I'm throwing everybody out. And there was like 5 or 6 of us. So no cabs or anybody would stop. I jump in the road and almost get hit by this van. And this dude like slams his brakes on. And we don't even say that. I'm like, get in. And we just
Pile in this
start
guy's car.
piling in this van. And this guy's like, no, 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 no. And I'm like, listen. I'll give you a $50 tip if you make it before midnight. And God is my witness, and I'll have one of my buddies sitting right here, and he'll vouch for this. This dude looks at me, he goes, if I don't make it, I give you $50. Wham! It just floors it. And we got dudes laying across at the guy's laps in the back. Like, there's a guy on my lap. This guy...
This is a story this guy tells his kids.
100%. We're all like, oh shit, like we're in it, and everyone's hanging on. I think Galvan, one of our buddies, is puking out the window. Like, it was just a shit show. This dude we'd come flying up to a red light. He would just whoomp on the curb. I'm talking on the sidewalk, people diving out of the ways. He's plowing through trash cans, hitting shit. You just hear all kinds of stuff hitting this van, swerves. And then at that time, I don't know if it's still the same, when you would pull into the Singapore naval port, there was those 2 like Jeep trucks, and they had like 240 Golfs like mounted right there. Dude, these dudes are waving at us. This dude didn't even touch the brakes. Blows through the military checkpoint onto the naval base. Everybody in the van ducks, thinking like we're just about to start getting sprayed by 240. Everyone lays down. Pulls the fucking brake. Dude, open the door. We all come rolling out right in the ship's right there. 11:59. We made it where the people sit. Little shore patrol.
That's amazing.
The shore patrol, he's like $50. And I was like, motherfucker, I gave $50. I'm like, good dude.
That's the best $50 probably ever spent.
100%. Singapore was the first time I ever saw somebody get hit by a car. Like, plowed. It was a Marine. So, do you remember it was an Irish pub? You'd go down.
I didn't get off in Singapore.
You didn't get off in Singapore?
No, I think I had enough in the Philippines.
Oh my God, bro. So they call it the 4 floors of horrors.
I think I had watch or something.
Oh God, you missed out. It was the Orchard Towers. I got a silk pinstripe suit made. All of our buddies went there. We all went. The owner of this place just starts pulling out Tiger beer. We got completely
Got the Justin Bieber treatment?
Annihilated. No, we didn't go that bad. We got completely wasted, getting fitted for these silk pinstripe suits. I got a pinstripe. This dude got all of our sizes, took all our measurements. He's like, I'll mail it to you. Dude, it was like $150. I was home on leave, and my mom gets a package, and my suit showed up like 4 months later. He actually got it.
Oh, man, he probably got you.
Yeah, dude. We were at this, I want to say it was Muddy Murphy's or something. Any Marines watching this will know. It's an Irish pub.
I think I've heard of that.
You go down these stairs.
Yeah.
I have a shirt in my closet from it still. It's like a large. It's this tiny little thing. We're standing there because they drive the opposite way. This Marine, this grunt, comes out drunk as shit, like yelling, and we all look, and he looks the wrong way and gets plowed. I'm talking bloop, 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 like up the hood, roof, decked out, and he got messed up, man. Singapore was...
Because they can't drive... People don't... Those deployments gave me true perspective. Like, racism was nuts, but, like, the driving thing was nuts.
Hong Kong.
I watched people on donkeys get smoked while we were convoying and stuff. Like there's no rules.
There's no rules anywhere. Like we're so taken care of here in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, you get in a cab and it just looks like it went through a war zone.
That's
like
why when I get pulled over for rolling a stop sign when nobody else is around, I'm like, bro, calm down.
And then you got people that are like, oh, I'm here. I'm gonna merge here. It's like they're bumper cars, and you're just like, God, please don't kill me.
Yeah.
Dude, Singapore was Singapore was one of my favorite places. Dude, we had the wildest. There was this guy on our platoon. His name was Zuma. He was a liberal risk before we even left. One of those guys, right? I remember this guy. I remember going to a bar. This was my first experience actually with those buy me drinky bars.
Oh yeah.
I me and all my buddies are rolling to this bar, and we're boot ass Marines.
Yeah, babies.
19-year-old kid from upstate New York, never
Yeah.
experienced shit in my life. We walk into this bar, and it's just women. And I'm like, damn, the odds, there's great odds in this bar. There's Marines and sailors and shit. And we're all partying, and the women are just flocking to you like, oh, hey, you know, dude, that whole typical bullshit. And I'm sitting there with my buddies. We're drinking. And I'm looking, and I'm like, why do all these women have numbers on them? Because they all have these like round number tags. He's like, I don't know. And we're just sitting there drinking. And it is a women one after another, one after another. Hey. And then finally I'm like, I think we could buy these women. And then it dawns on us. We're like in this buy me drinky bar. And oh my God. But anyways, Zuma, the kid, he was in there. 100% liberal arrest. This guy would get so drunk in the barracks, he would like jump off the third deck into a tree and like crash to the ground.
Yeah.
He was wild. He had trapped these rabbits and like skin them out in his barracks room. There'd be just blood and everything all over his seat. He was 100% a liberal risk.
Good thing he joined the Marine Corps. It would have been Dexter.
This dude, I would like to know where he was at. He's at in this day, because if you ever like thought of like a Marine in a movie, this was him. Like, you just need to give him a belt fed and like in the jungle. Oh yeah, that was this guy. Bro, we walk into this bar and I look at him, and dude, he has a pitcher, like a beer pitcher. And I'm like, Zuma, what the fuck are you drinking? He's like, I just ordered a Jack and Coke, and they gave me this. They gave this guy a pitcher of a Jack and Coke. And sure as shit, got a fight. Fucking tried to burn half the town down. Gosh. Dude, it was seeing those libo ports. The fact that like you just pull up into a foreign country,
it just shouldn't be a thing. I don't know why it's a thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's bad enough when you go on deployment and you're not getting employed properly. At least you're in a place where you're supposed to be killing people.
And then you go to an ATM, and then you look and you're like, I got $1 million, whatever the exchange rate is. You're like, fucking part. Then you feel like a rock star. Yeah. Like, what do you guys, dude, we were in this country with one of my boys. We're at this bar. It goes downstairs. And it's just, we're all just partying. Because, all those Asian countries, every bar is a buy me drinky bar. Like, they're just women. They're just, all
it
whatever.
Depends how much money you have.
Exactly. Well, our buddy, I don't know if I should name him, name drop him, whatever, Travis. Old Travis had the signature move when he would dance. He was 6'4", shredded, large, like Greek god, right? He'd pick women up and like dance with them, but like they'd wrap their legs, so he'd pick, like he could just snatch women up. This dude was massive. We're down in this basement bar, partying, having a great time. We're all on the dance floor. Everyone's dancing, doing our thing. And we look over, and Travis has got this little Asian girl, and he picks her up, and he's like bouncing her.
Yeah.
And he doesn't see this beam because it's in the basement, so it's like the ceiling's kind of low. He goes, boom, and like just
knocks her out.
Spears this little Asian girl off this beam in this bar and just drops her, and she just like hits the floor, and the whole place stops. We're like, oh shit. And she like sits up, she's like, me dizzy. We're like, oh fuck, we gotta go. And so all of us peel out, right? We run out of there, run down a couple blocks, end up all pouring in this other bar. Our whole platoon, our gunny, everybody's in this other bar. We all start partying when none of us say shit. The next night we go out and we're at this completely different bar, and this chick comes walking up with this bandaged wrapped around her head. She's like, hey boys, like wanting the party the next night after just getting her.
I thought she was coming for a bill,
Dude, wanting the party. It was wild. Those women are wild, dude, those countries. I mean,
gosh.
Where else did you hit?
Just Thailand, Singapore, and the Philippines. We were supposed to go to Australia.
Australia was
dope. But it's probably good that we didn't. So we
hit, dude, in one Mew we hit Brisbane, Perth, Darwin, and then I ended up going back to Sydney. I've been to Australia like 3 times in the Marine Corps, and it is the
So I'm glad I didn't though.
Darwin is
would
like
probably take a different path.
If there's any country I can go back to, it'd be Australia.
Yeah.
But like when we will pull in the Darwin, dude, imagine a rowdier version of Oceanside.
Okay.
Just
my wife Maddie lived in near Bondi Beach for a long time.
It was wild.
Surf there and stuff like that.
But I love Australia. The people there were fun.
Yeah.
The dudes were a great time. We partied with a bunch of Aussie rugby players. Like
Yeah.
we actually had jerseys that we bought one night. We were all just tore up, young Marines being stupid.
Dude, their Cowboy deal in Australia is no joke.
They don't play, bro.
Yeah, it's pretty legit.
I mean, the way they're running those cows down on like Jeeps with tires
like
on them.
Freaking Jurassic Park car
Comes out and just like grabs them, and it's
no
wild.
joke.
Australia's a good time. So okay, you just do 2 mews.
Yeah, this by the second one, I was like Motor T chief, right? Like I was running everything for the battalion, and I think I was a corporal, and I was just like, bro, there's got to be like a trained monkey to do this job.
Yeah, for
you know
sure.
what I mean? And I was starting to get pretty bitter, and I was like, man, all I got to do is muse. Like, I'm doing the job of a gunny or a master sergeant as a corporal, and they're not doing anything. And I was just like, this ain't it, you know. And so
Without any actual like deployments.
nothing kinetic, you know what I mean? So I think the closest we got was like we got loaded out to go do a OP kind of deal, right? Like, and so
Where?
that was in Thailand,
Okay.
but nothing happened. You know, there was potential for it, but I hadn't seen anything yet. So I was just I was kind of pretty bitter, and I was like, I'm as high up as I can go in this, right? As a corporal, I'm running an entire Motor T lot, all this stuff, and I had good mentorship, but it was Marine Corps mentorship, like hazing, brainwashing more, right? Not like true leadership in what I consider leadership now. So I was going to get out, and there was a captain. His name's David Tamanjan, and just in case he ever hears, but he basically changed my entire direction, you know, whether he knew it or not. And probably looking back now, I'm like, damn, you know, I'm 37 now. I look a lot at like, man, this is where this guy was at this point in his life.
For sure.
He's touching people at that age, right? Like, so he scooped me up.
Which is very rare.
Which is rare, right? A corporal getting scooped up by a captain. And I was briefing battalion briefs. I was doing all this stuff at this point. I was doing maintenance cycles, like running everything out in the field. And we were out in the field a lot. And so he pulls me in his office. He goes, I'm David and you're James. We're going to have a conversation.
Really?
That's the first time in Marine Corps that's ever happened to me, right? Rest of his parade rests, like all that kind of stuff, you know? And so I was like, oh, shit, you know, like, and it didn't quite click for me. He's like, I know you're looking at getting out. Just entertain me. Put in a package for MARSOC or put in a package for OCS. And I had no idea what MARSOC was.
Yeah.
You know? So there was
What year was this? 12?
I think it was like I think that was probably in 11. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't want to go back to college. I'll do this MARSOC thing, you know? And up until that point, I was the guy that could run a 300 PFT.
Yeah.
You know? And so they would put me on every meritorious board against all the other companies and whatever. And I go smash everybody into PFT and then like wash out a drill and knowledge. You know what I mean? Like I was just not that guy. And I didn't want to study for it. You know, I thought it was a joke anyway, because I was already doing the job.
Yeah.
You know, rank was just like, and so I put in a package for MARSOC. And at that point, there's no recruiting effort. If you go to the airport now, there's posters and there's like a prep program and there's none of that. So I ended up trying to call a recruiter, and the guy was off at like some rugby championships. And I was just like, dude, what the hell is going on? Like, how do I? So I had to figure it all out, right? And it's funny because at the end of ITC, at the end of the pipeline, when I became an operator, MARSOC recruiting came and pulled a bunch of random dudes out and asked us how they can improve recruiting. And I literally stood up and said, you shouldn't change anything, because you don't want the guy that gets spoon-fed to be here. You want the guy that wants to be here. You know, and so obviously numbers and all that shit, they can't do that. But so put in a package for MARSOC. Did no prep training, had no idea what it really was.
What is MARSOC for everybody listening?
A bunch of idiots. No, it's basically Marine Corps' version of the SEALs. So the Marine Corps' special operations apparatus. Before that, really the only thing that existed in the special operations capability was Force Recon, you know, but they were mostly tied to the MEU. So they actually folded up a bunch of Force Recon to make the beginning of MARSOC and stuff like that. But so I show up at selection, and I don't really know what I gotten into. You know, I've watched enough videos at this point that I know this is probably what I signed up to do to start with. Right. So I show up. crush the PFT, and then we go to swim, right? And I didn't know like you had a time swim, and the time swim's in camis, and it sucks,
which just drag.
So
No boots, just camis.
no boots at that point, just camis, and so but like doesn't you know how it is? They're all medium brag, baggy ass things, and it sucks, So go through all selection, and so we did PFT. I think we did swim, and then we had our ruck, the first ruck. There's a bunch of rucks you had to do at selection, but the first ruck. I remember like you had your packing list, you had everything you were supposed to have. We go outside, we're on the start line, and they're like, ready, and everybody's got their watches. They're like, go, and everybody starts running. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why are we running right now? Because I haven't done ruck runs yet, because I was with artillery, So everybody starts running. Well, thank goodness I did college track, so I just start running. I started running with this rucksack, and I think I ended up 14th or 16th or something. Oh, a couple hundred.
Really?
So
is this the INDOC or is this?
This is ANS, so assessment selection.
Okay, so and this is you can get approved
to go to the pipeline.
Okay.
So afterwards, they had just started letting instructors do some counselings with some of the guys. The instructor's like, "Hey, what was your tactic?" I was like, "What do you mean tactic? I just ran." And he's like, "No, like usually you do like minutes on, minutes off, like so that you can get through whatever distance it is." I was like, "Oh shit, I had no idea." So it was good because then I started strategizing for my other rucks. And
so these dudes are coming in with strategy, and you're just running.
Dude, I had no clue, But thank God, like I tell a lot of people now. Well, I'll get messages on Instagram and stuff like, "Hey, I want to go try out for special operations." And number one thing I ask somebody that asks me that is why.
Yeah.
Why? Why do you want to go do this? And I think most people are probably pretty surprised by that. But it's the why is the only thing that survives when shit sucks. Mm-hmm. The cool guy factor, the money, the tattoo, none of that shit fucking matters when it sucks. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So if you can't define a why,
good luck.
What are you even doing trying?
You probably don't last very long.
No, and I think that goes for most things in life. But I read a book going into so I went to selection. I ended up getting selected.
How many guys made it through that out of the couple hundred?
I think we selected, I want to say like 47.
Really?
Yeah. So the attrition was high.
Very.
So that all happened. Then I went back to 311, back to Twin Palms, because you had to go back to your parent unit until a class picked up that you got put into, if you so desire to go, right? So I went back. I wanted to go, and this was, I'm sure you can relate to some of this. So I had gunnies and all kinds of stuff pull me in their office, telling me like, "Hey, don't you want to be the motor T chief? Like, you're gonna get promoted rapidly. All this stuff. Like, the grass isn't greener. Marsock's not cool." And I was just like,
"Shut up,"
And I was just like, "Fuck this," And so I told them I was going.
Yep.
And then they basically banished me to the field.
Don't you love that about the Marine Corps,
Bro.
Man? You could be the most stellar Marine.
Yeah.
Most squared away person the second you want to better yourself.
Yeah. I had no pool time. Couldn't go to the pool to train.
They just stuck you in the field.
Stuck me in the field. So I snuck because you weren't allowed to wear non-issued boots back then, right? So I snuck these Fobbit boots in, these Bates boots I saw that guys are training with on the compound and stuff. Stuck those in, put extra shirts in for the field op and all this other stuff. And me and my buddy Murphy just got out. He ended up going to special operations too. Me and my buddy Murphy, when I graduated A&S, I was like, "It's your turn." Murphy was like my little brother, And it's funny because I hazed the shit out of him on our first MEU, and he hated me.
Yeah. That's how it works, man.
Yeah. So I was like, "It's your turn." So he started training for A&S, and I was training for ITC. And so we would get up at 4:30 in the morning before the rest of the battery woke up, right?
And
we'd go run. And we'd put rucksacks on, we'd go run down these dirt roads.
Out in Tango.
And then we come back, and then they'd sound reveille, and the battalion would wake up, and they had no idea, right? Like,
really? That's how bad you wanted it?
That's how bad I wanted it.
Good for you.
And so got back, went to ITC, and ITC again was a game of attrition. Like, you got to show up every single day, and really jacked up my ankle in that.
What's ITC stand for?
Individual training course. So that's basically your pipeline to become an operator. So
what's going on there?
So when you graduate IT, you have different phases that you have to complete, and it's obviously physical, and it's also written. So you have written tests and all these other things
Okay.
for proficiency. So you get out of ITC with like CQB level 1, amphib, like all the boats. You basically learn everything you need to do to become a entry level operator.
Okay.
And then every phase is you do your ruck, you do your PFT, you do your double obstacle course, which is timed. Like you do all your events every time. You can also get peer eval out, so you have to do peer evals the whole time. So it's a pretty gnarly thing, and you run everywhere. You carry your buddy back and forth through chow, like all that
Really?
stuff. Yeah. So it's funny. One of my best friends, Dom Rickert, he was my rack mate at selection, and he ended up being my rack mate at ITC, and then we were on teams together at first.
Cool.
And he was a recon marine. I remember ITC walked in, he's all loud, he's got his Ray-Bans on, typical recon kid. And I was like, oh man, this dude's a douche,
Yeah.
But I made it, I made it through selection. But the cool thing of note is our second MEU, our boat broke, and all the sewers started backing up. And of course, they're like, mop it up, and you're like picking up these things and throwing them into it's disgusting, right? So they flew us to the aircraft carrier, and Force Recon was at the aircraft carrier, and we had to share berthing with them.
Okay.
And so First Sergeant was like, he brought us all in. He's like, you guys can't go over there because if anything happens to you, I can't protect you. And I was like, what the fuck? Like we're Marines, bro. You know what I mean? And you're scared of these dudes?
Yeah.
And these guys walk around with black silkies. They got headlamps on. They're jacking, 4 plates at the gym.
Yep.
Obviously now I know they're probably
They're all
juicing,
juiced
but
out of their mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so the biggest dude from that Force Recon platoon on that MEU was in the class ahead of me in ITC.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, I'm where I'm supposed to be. You know what I mean? So ITC, I went into it not in great shape because I couldn't really perform.
Yeah.
But I couldn't really prepare. And I got in better and better shape through ITC. And so by the end of it, I could win the runs and all those things, So ended up graduating ITC. And I was just like, that. There's been a couple of times in my life where there's like that weird feeling where you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You know what I mean?
And it feels incredible.
And so I graduated ITC and became an operator and went to battalion. I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I signed up to do. This is what I want to be doing. So yeah, I ended up at MARSOC at it's now 3rd Raider Battalion. It used to be 3rd MSOB, but and that was in North Carolina. So at Stone Bay, North Carolina, I did 2 deployments with MARSOC, one to Africa and then one to Iraq.
What was Africa like?
Dude, Africa was dope.
Wow. Where were you in Africa?
We were in Somalia,
Oh, God.
but we were one of the first teams to really go.
Okay.
So we did. It kind of sucks. I should have done an extra deployment with MARSOC, but we did a whole workup for Somalia, and they decided it was too risky to insert a white soft team.
Really?
So we started our workup over, and I was just like, dude, this sucks, But it was okay. It was kind of divine because we had some squad leaders that kind of sucked and stuff like that.
What's going on in Somalia? Why they need a MARSOC team there?
So a lot of people don't know, but all the insurgencies that basically we see overtly in the Middle East typically will start in Africa. So there's a lot of insurgencies in Africa that stand up and gain strength, and then they go and start to do these proxy
How are they
type
gaining
wars.
strength? Like, that's where they're getting the funding from, or bodies?
Bodies mostly.
Okay.
So the governments is so corrupted down there that they basically skim all the money, so then they become oppressive, and the local population is
okay.
able to be molded. So,
Got it.
so we were one of the first. We sent one MSOT there to prep the space, and then we went in, and we were co-located with Task Force. So we're co-located with a SEAL Team 6 team.
Yeah.
And that was a fun deployment because we didn't really have a lot of like command and control type stuff. You know what I mean? So we got to do our own intel, we got to develop out our own packages, and we got to go execute those things. That deployment was dope just because it was all the guys I kind of went through the pipeline with, and then
Are you doing any like actual combat shit, or is it just
So at that point, one, we were waiting to get overrun because we had no perimeter fence.
really? Where are you guys living? Like out in town? Or are you
No, we're on a little fob with Hesco and Alaska
okay?
tents and all that stuff and like the inflatable shower, you know. I mean, it was dope. I got to order all of our food and they would fly it in at night and we were like crushing lobster and steak and stuff, you know, like Gaines
No
trains.
shit.
I was like 236 at the point, but
I mean, what's a day in day out over in Somalia for a MARSOC team?
so you so really a MARSOC operator is a glorified trainer, right? So we go over there and we embed with a force and we train that force.
Oh,
So
okay.
we each were responsible for platoons of Somali special forces.
How is that? Do you trust them?
I think more than we did at times in Iraq. You know what I mean?
For
But
sure.
there hadn't been green on blue yet. But one of my buddies, Charles Strong, got killed on. We were in the pipeline together. He went to the fleet, went straight on deployment, got killed on green on blue. So it was definitely something we were pretty
Blue, consider who you consider blue?
a partner nation dude turning on you
Got
and
it.
killing you. You know, so Strong got killed right when he went to the teams,
Damn.
and that was something that we were all pretty spun up on. You know, but the guys there, you could tell with the vibe that they weren't sold on Al Shabaab and going over to that side yet, right? Like, so what would happen would be the U.S. would put a stipend in, the government would receive it, they paid it to the generals, and the generals would divvy it up, and then they never paid the dudes that you're working with.
So by the time it got to the guys that you're actually supposed to be training to help take on,
They literally were eating tuna and beans. Was it, right? Like every day with their hands.
and how much? I mean, dude, I couldn't even imagine how much money we're paying them.
Oh, God, I have no idea.
And once it hits the generals, they're just pocketing it
Yeah,
all.
so the dudes didn't have nods, so we had to do full moon ops or day ops. Every day, this stuff would get brought into port, and it's called COTS, and they could chew it, and it would make them high. So it would come in at the beginning of every week, and guys would start running out of it, so they become more easy to work with. The rest of the time, they're just like high out of their minds.
What type of high? What would you compare it to?
I think it's probably like a really strong marijuana.
Okay.
You know, but they chew it, so it's in their cheek. So I remember one night showing up and we were supposed to go out and we'd just gotten MVGs for him finally. I was supposed to go out and do a mission, and I'd go up to the lead vehicle. These guys have like old school diesel Land Cruisers,
Wow.
like $150,000 cars over here, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you show up to the Overland Expo, one of these things, like you're the bee's knees,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like they would pull them out of these containers, mint 0 kilometers on these things,
Really?
and then they crash them into a wall because they're high,
You're just sitting there like, oh my god.
bro. So show up and we're doing MVG. No, it wasn't an op. We're doing MVG training with them, and so we show up, and so let me back up. So I was in charge of ordering all the gear from the State Department money that came in. So I had to go through it all with these guys. I've told this story a couple of times, but they were on this concrete pad. They came out of all their little tents and things. And they're all I had them all laying and sitting cross-legged in formation, you know. And I was like, dump everything out of your bags. And they're all like, you know, interpreters interpreting. And I was like, go through, find this one, hold it up, you know.
So you're doing it by the numbers.
Yeah, we're doing it by numbers. And so hold it up, they got it. I was like, put it in a backpack. And they're like, backpack. Next thing, hold it up. Good, everybody good? Cool, put it in a backpack. And they're like, backpack. By the end of it, they were so into this that they are like screaming and cheering. They're like, yeah, backpack. And they're stuffing it in their backpacks. So the next day I show up at camp and I'm like, bro, I'm ripping some weights, you know, like I feel pretty egocentric about myself. I show up at camp, like Phil at 236, you know, like probably rocking a tank top with my plate carrier or whatever. And they're like, hey, backpack. And now every single dude was
was
calling
your
me
name?
Backpack for the rest of the trip. I'm like, bro, you could give me a cool name?
Backpack.
Like Dragon? Like, I got to be Backpack?
Yeah,
Come on.
right.
You know? And it's
funny how
funny
they-
because we're trying to teach them, like, fire maneuver, and they're running around with these giant shrubs on their head, plain as day. Like, you're not going to see it. Like, that doesn't work. And they're like, Backpack. Just running around.
God, bro, what a shit show.
So I walk up to the first vehicle, and I flick my nods up. And I'm like, okay, do you know where we're going? You know? And he turns to me, and his whole cheek is like extended
with this
drug. Cot. He goes,
What's it called?
Cot.
Cot? How do you spell it?
I have no idea. I'd have to look it up.
Okay.
We'll get a computer at one of these points. Yeah. But he turns to me, his whole cheek's full, and he's like drooling on himself. He's like, Backpack. I was like, bro, spit that out. You know, like we're about to go drive around with nods, and you're high out of your mind. He's like, oh, good. And he literally put it in to drive, and it was actually reversed. He slams into the vehicle behind him. No. I'm just like, this is a great night we're going to have. Great night.
You're supposed to be training these dudes?
Dude. So we pile in, we're driving around, and outside of, it's an old runway where Russia used to like land like
Okay.
Spacecraft and stuff. So we go out of the runway, and then you go into the bush, and you can't see anything once you hit the bush, you know. And so we're going down all these roads and stuff, and the hard balls are no go because of IEDs, but the sand we didn't really. It was kind of one of those times where you're just like, if it happens, it happens. You know what I mean? So we come around a corner, and there's a vehicle checkpoint, and I think our PNF only got rounds if we were going to go out in ops, so they weren't armed. Just the 3 operators were armed who were doing the training with these guys. So coming to a checkpoint is definitely not friendlies. You know what I mean? So
really?
We ended up having to like put it in reverse and like get out of there, and like E&E back to base. So we're like, okay, we can't do it that way anymore, and we definitely can't do it while these dudes are high. You know?
So this is the environment they're throwing you guys into. So you're doing like these training missions, and you have enemy out there that you could get in a firefight with.
Yeah. So
and you're not even rolling around with rounds.
No. So because you could only give it to them because they weren't getting paid, so they would take their rounds and they give it to Al Shabaab.
Oh my God!
So they take their gear and they go cash it in because they didn't have any money for anything, you know.
So Al Shabaab was what your guys' enemy in a way?
Yes, they were a terrorist network.
So the dudes that you're training
would go and take the shit that we gave them and give it to Al Shabaab.
To the terrorists that you're training them to fight.
Yeah.
And they're taking the rounds that they're supposed to be fighting these terrorists with.
Yeah, that country's all messed up. The regular army would set up checkpoints and charge citizens and stuff to go cross them. So there's no trust in the government either from citizens. So it's like
what a shit show.
Rich environment for you to create an insurgency. You know what I mean? So we had no perimeter. So we'd rip around in razors with machine guns all hours of day and night to try to keep our bubble out so that they weren't coming in and like getting coordinates to like mortar us and shit. So
did that ever happen?
No, it happened right when we left to Murphy's team. So they all got mortared. Luckily, they were all in a brief, but we were waiting the whole time for that to happen. It was supposed to be 3 V-bids and then mortars. But anyway, so we're ripping around razors, and I don't know how I got lucky with this because I don't know, Charles and Dom and stuff probably call me on it if they listen to this, but I always got to lead the convoys in the razors. So I'd have a Turpin with me. We'd have a dude on a saw out the side and another shooter in the back. And I made like these little tarps on top of them and stuff, like some OT stuff carried over, right? So like we had shade and like I actually tuned all the Fox shocks on them for our weight so they weren't bottoming out, like fucking dialed, you know? So we'll rip out of the compound and I'll just drift that thing all the way across the tarmac and then into the bush, you know, like, and the interpreter like was like, "You're like Ricky Bobby." I was like, "Fuck yeah," you know, like
it's a way cooler nickname.
Yeah. And everybody else is getting dusted out, you know, and I'm just ripping it. And we're going, like, you're getting air going through these things, and like, there'll be wildlife running off the road and like all this shit. And we're just trying to keep the button. And then you come across nomads that like have all the charcoal and all this other stuff, and we're just trying to keep a presence, you know. And so we came in one night.
So everybody knows you're there.
Everybody knows we're there.
Okay.
And so we were actually being guarded by the UN. And so they had Ugandans there guarding us. Yep.
I worked with them in Iraq.
Probably the first week we were there, we already had all the intel dumps that this was coming. This thing was coming, right?
What's coming? Like an
That
attack?
we're going to get hit.
Okay.
And so we're all pretty on edge. And it was middle of the night, the alarm goes off, right? And so dude's just grabbing all their shit, getting on. We're running the ready room. I see the dude Will, who I was partnered with up on the HESCO, and he's running straight there. I was like, "Did you get any of the shit?" And he's like, "No." I was like, "God, motherfucker, bro!" And all he's got is M4, so I had to go get the sniper rifle, 2 laws, and all my stuff, and carry it all the way over. Like all the way over to our freaking HESCO, and I'm like trying to hand it up to him. I was like, "God, you dickhead! Like you were supposed to grab this stuff, Like,
Yeah.
what a shit show! The first time, And so we get up on the wall, and like the RTL's just going nuts, and he's on the radio, and he's like, "I need a direction distance. What's going on out there?" Because he's in the team room, and guys start firing, and like there's all these tracers everywhere, and everything's going off, and I was like, cease fire. That's outgoing fire. Because you can see the tracers hit off of the runway and just bounce out into the bush.
Yeah.
So everybody stops, and the TL's still going nuts over the radio, and they're like, the Ugandans have gotten drunk, and they're just shooting their guns off.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And that happened the whole deployment.
Oh,
so we didn't know if we were getting hit or if the Ugandans were just drunk.
No. So now you have that stress on top of everything else.
So didn't sleep a lot that deployment.
So they're just getting drunk and just shooting machine guns off.
Yeah. And
are they running AKs or what are they running over there?
Yeah, AKs. Okay. And all like the old machine guns and shit.
Yeah.
So we're doing a night rip one night with the ATVs, with the UTVs. We come around, and they've just started to put up the beginnings of a perimeter fence at this point.
Okay.
And so we're going to have some standoff, right? And so we had to come in through a Ugandan gate to get back into our compound. Yeah. So we're ripping around. We're all blacked out. We're on nods. We come rolling up to the gate, and they took this floodlight on. They're loading their machine guns. They're about to open up on us, and because they didn't know who we were, and they're probably high and drunk and whatever else. And so like Dom, like BFF Dom is I think I'm driving for him, and he ends up getting up out of the Razor, and I remember looking, and there's a ditch. I'm like, yo, I'm just gonna fucking floor this bitch into this fucking ditch if they start shooting.
Yeah, for sure.
And so Dom ends up like walking up there, and Dom's a pretty tall dude, like every shirt's a belly shirt, and he's got like his like FIFA soccer like hairband thing going on. It was his like prepubescent like beard, and he's like, "Yo, America, friendly, whatever," like.
Yeah.
And they stood down, thank God, just like that kind of shit, So.
You imagine doing all this and going through all this training, and you get taken out by some fucking Ugandan that's just drunk or high.
Just all kinds of silly things. Dom and we had like 4 Pumas, like the little UAV things.
Yeah.
But they were all broken. So Dom went in there and like started piecing together one that worked. Mm-hmm. So he pieced together one that worked, and I'm up on the HESCO looking out, like, so I can kind of track which way it goes. And he's standing back here in the compound, and I'm on the wall. He's like, "Ready?" I'm like, "Ready." And he runs and he goes to throw it, and it just explodes into the HESCO right next to me. I'm like, a little higher, a little higher, bro. Come on. We've been another 2 weeks fixing that thing, finally get it back up. And we're all sunbathing on top of the connexes because that's what you do, Mm-hmm. And Dom's on the UAV controller, and he's flying around trying to get like essay of the surrounding area because there's no real big intel yet, right? Because we're like first ones kind of do. All the task force is helo assault.
Okay.
We're all ground assault.
Okay.
So he's flying it around, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh no, oh no," and we're all like, "What's up, bro?" He's like, "I just crashed it." I'm like, "Oh god, dude, you're the worst UAV operator ever."
You have to go get this thing now.
So we have to go get it. So we jock up, we load up all the MAP Vs, we get everything. This is our first time really going out with the wire. Load everything up. And this big hoopla, right? And so we start driving out in the bush, and we've already been ripping razors out there, and we know some of the yellow jugs probably might have IEDs in them and stuff like that. But like, dude, you're going so fast around that like it happens, it's gonna happen.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, and so we get out there, and he's got the grid of where it's supposed to be, and we look over, and there's these fields, and this dude stands up in the middle of the field. We're like, the fuck? And he runs, and there's one hut in the whole field.
He runs straight to the
straight
hut.
to the hut, shuts the door. We're like,
He's got it.
it's that guy, obviously. There's only one building here.
Yeah.
So we drive over there, we try to do a call out and all this shit, and our medic's like he's getting like fidgety, you know, and he's like trying to like interrogate this dude with his gun, and we're like, yo, just chill out, go sit in the truck, you know. And he's like, have you seen a plane? He's like, I haven't seen a plane. I was like, well, we got these MREs in his water. Have you seen a plane? He's like, oh yeah, I got a plane. He opens like the one door. It's like a little like pump house, and pulls out our UAV, and we're like, oh, you dickhead, you know.
That's
like,
all it took.
it was just that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But most of that deployment, we would get there because we had to do gaffs, and we didn't do a lot of night ops,
Okay.
right? So a lot of times we rolled up to the village, and they knew the early warning network was too good because the local population was sided with them so hardcore that they would drop their guns and boogie.
Got it.
So you literally have a dude with the AK in a field. You're listening to him on his phone. He throws his gun down, runs.
And you can't do shit about
You
it.
can't do shit. So, we did one of our last ops. We got there. It was going to be this big ordeal. We thought there was an IED on the road going in, and our driver just starts driving over trees, bro. We're just driving over these giant trees with this map fee, and we're like, yo, PJ, chill out. There's no rush. Just drive on something that's not a tree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so blows a tire.
Ugh.
Who's the only guy that knows how to change a fucking map fee
Motor
tire?
T.
This dude, right? So get out, set up a 360. We know we're like right next to this village that is not permissive. Dudes are wigging out, and I go to crack the first lug nut off, and my legs give out. I feel a pop at the same time. And so I dropped to my knees, and I was like, that's not good.
Really?
You know what I mean? And so back's gone. So what are we going to do? Like, there's a high potential we're about to get a tick. I got to change this tire. So I just finish it, right?
Yeah.
Like, get it all down on my knees. I kind of can get myself up. Like, thank goodness I've been lifting now whole deployment. Put it on. It's not a full-size spare.
No.
So they're like, we got to bounce. We're like, the dude's right there. Let's just go. You know what I mean? And he's like, no, we got to bounce. We can't maneuver this gun around with a not full-size spare tire. So we're all like, fuck, dude. 4.5 hours. 4.5 hours.
Such a Marine Corps story.
4.5 hours we're going back. And I'm sitting on the gun the whole time. And we get there, and I fall out on the map field. My legs don't work.
No shit.
So I didn't know it at the time. When we go into BAS, and our EOD techs try to shoot this X-ray machine for IEDs through my back, like, fucking terrible. I'm probably going to get cancer for sure. You know, if it wasn't for the bottled water, you know?
Yeah,
like,
right?
So do all that. They're like, we need to send you back to Djibouti. I'm like, dude, I'm not going. You know, like, I'll do whatever we need to do. So Danny gives me oxy, and that's the first time I've ever had oxycodone. And I'm like, dude, this is why people get hooked, you know? And I'm floating around that fob, you know? And so if I don't wear plates and I don't lift heavy, I don't feel it. As soon as I put weight on or plates on,
Yeah.
I can't feel my legs.
Really?
So I know there's something going on in my back. So finish the deployment up. We get back from that deployment, and we go to do our, like, you have to do a SOCOM physical fitness screener before you leave and when you get back.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing deadlifts. It's like 225. Like, by that, like, that was cake for me back then, you know. I think I'm on like rep 9, and it goes out, and I'm on the floor. I can't move. So I'm like, oh, this is dope. You know, like, there's actually something fucked up.
Yeah.
So I go to medical. We do all this stuff. They can't figure out what it is. At this point, I'm like, yo, I'm a risk to force. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I can't participate in this next workup. So, so I'm looking at getting moved over to the schoolhouse and stuff like that. And finally, they find massive herniation and like a fractured vertebrae.
Jesus.
So I literally fractured my vertebrae
No shit.
when I was trying to lift a truck like an idiot. So Figure all that out. But now I'm at the 3rd Marine Raider Support Battalion. So I'm the training chief for all the guys that get attached to the teams.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a bad place to be. I could directly affect guys. When we got to Somalia, our SIGINT guys didn't know how to do March, right? Like, bro, you're embedding with a MARSOC team and you don't know how to do basic first aid, combat medicine,
Really?
right? Like, there's a problem.
Like not even combat lifesaver shit?
No, like they don't know, massive hemorrhaging, airway, respiration. They don't know the March acronym and how to save a dude. Worst case, right? Like,
Stop the bleeding, start the breathing.
Yeah.
They're just like,
so like that was actually the first point I've ever passed out from needles because they were blowing my arms out so bad practicing, like all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I go over to the training cell. I'm like, dope, I can actually influence something that needs influencing, So, so stand up all this new training to get guys actually properly spun up and like a training exercise and all these things, and it was good, but that was when Divorce 1 happened, and I think I was just like, I want to just be back on a team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I still hadn't figured out this back deal. I was going to do physical therapy all the time, and I just, every time I put weight on or squatted or put a plate carrier on, like I couldn't feel my legs.
Yep.
And so I'm not going to go tell people this.
Yeah.
So I stay there, and I'm getting pretty disgruntled at this point. Like, I just went straight back to cardio, right? And I'm in pretty good shape. I'm thinking about maybe gonna go do the long walk, stuff like that, if I can get this back thing figured out. So opportunity to go to Iraq comes up. I'm like, screw it, I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm gonna extend
Before you're healed.
I'm gonna go to Iraq. So I go to Iraq with the SODIF, and it was kind of lame, but it was also what you make it, right? And we got to go plus up teams for op windows. So we basically got to pick. You go plus up the SEAL team, go plus up the MSOT, like.
Okay.
So you go lead all the convoys. So you get to go out quite a lot, but still be like at the C2 in Erbil, So that deployment started to shape up to be really good. Regardless of the fact that we're on the SODIF, I was in best shape I've been in a long time. I was just crushing it. And if I didn't have plates on for more than 48 hours, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
So I'd been doing, it's called ROM WOD. So it's like prolonged stretching and all this shit. I was religious about it. So I got some functionality back. We went and did a pretty good op with the SEALs. We got a tick there.
What was that like?
Good. I had a lot of first sergeants when I was at MARSOC that told me I should have gone to NSW because I called them bro too much, And so I enjoyed spending time with SEALs. But that op was, we were trying to basically catch ISIS with the pants down, and because they didn't want to engage us anymore. So we ended up going in during a rainstorm, got all the trucks stuck. Again, who's the guy that's out there getting the trucks unstuck? I am with this SEAL. Got all unstuck, got there, walk around the compound. They were just there, right? Like,
so you guys roll into their compound right after the
so roll up in this village in the mountains, and they were just there, right? Like there's fires that aren't out, like all that stuff.
Really?
So we start walking across this river area up onto some high ground, and we think we see a dude running on the side of the hill, and so without anything, the SEALs just start lighting them up. Right, and I didn't even have my Peltors down, right? Like,
really?
I'm like blowing my ear out. I'm just like, fuck, dude. So I put it on, like everybody's shooting. I'm like, I don't see anything over there. You know what I mean?
Is this during the day or in the evening? What?
Super early morning.
Okay.
So we get there. So that happens, and then I go to split off with a couple of dudes. We're going to set up a sniper position for Overwatch. And as we're going up there, I start seeing like all these painted arrows for like instructions of where to go, like routes, so they can run through the side of the mountain as fast as they can. They know where they're going.
Really?
So they like painted on markers, for different routes,
Really?
different colors and all these things. So we get up there, and of course, I got to go to the bathroom because I ate 4 MREs on the way in because I'm an idiot.
Okay.
So I'm like, yeah, I can't hold this. Got to go, you know. And so I'm taking a dump, rip my sleeve off of my cries, you know, and then the SEAL team gets in contact, and so that all went pretty nuts. Ended up finally calling it air, like watch it come out of the sky. Like we ended up engaging a bunch of fortified positions on the side of the hill.
How far are you guys away from each other from this engagement? Are you in a valley?
We were kind of on like the side hill, and it dropped down. There was like a river, and then dropped up, and then there was a cave system.
Okay.
So they were on the cave system, and we were kind of overwatched from that. So we could kind of ID targets for them, and engage close stuff that we thought they, like QRF type stuff would come from, right? So, so all that happened. They only took PNF casualties. We got back, and it was a pretty big ordeal, you know, like because they had C2 back at Interview had no idea what was going on
Really?
because there was nobody at the gun truck to relay casualties and all this other shit.
Okay. How long was this firefight?
I have no idea.
Okay.
It's one of those ones where it could have been an hour, it could have been 20 minutes.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So yeah, so we reconsolidate, get back in trucks, drive all the way back, and then all the operators get pulled in a room, you know, and it was I still would consider myself as junior, you know, like even though that's like would have been actually my third deployment cycle. The mass sergeant in the room was like, Phil, what the fuck happened? You know what I mean? We had no idea what was going on. Then you guys called air support. You're getting troops in contact. Some dudes got hit. Some dudes got killed. What happened, you know? And there's supposed to be certain dudes that were senior that were supposed to stay with the truck. Mm-hmm. It didn't happen. You know what I mean?
Were the SEALs new to this area and they were just looking for it, or?
I think everybody was still, right?
Okay.
Like at this point, this is 2018 ish.
I feel like this is shit that happens in the beginning of a deployment when everybody's eager and wants that trigger time.
So at this point, it's hard to get them to fight us.
Yeah.
And we are those pit bulls in a cage just getting beat all the time. Mm-hmm. We had the commandant of the Marine Corps show up and be like, "You guys aren't special. Like the EGA is what matters, not your operator device." Like there's a lot of bastardization of the MARSOC dudes, you know.
Yeah.
And so we're just like, man, we spent all year gone from our families, training to come do that. Like let us do our job.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like we'd watch dudes on ISR that we knew had killed a ton of our guys and let them walk because they didn't want to just put us in. You know
That's
what I mean?
frustrating.
So a lot of that on that deployment. And then shortly after that, that whole, I don't know if you heard about it or not, there was a fight at a bar in Erbil and a contractor gets killed. Mm-mm. So, so the three other dudes that were with me on that deployment, one was a SARC, two were operators. Went out in town for New Year's. At that point, like you could kind of go out in town.
Where is out in town?
Erbil, because
Where
they
is
had
that?
the Kurdish line around Erbil.
Okay.
So you could go out through the Kurdish line, go to Mosul and all that stuff. So you could kind of go out just outside base and like get dinner and a drink if you wanted to. Wasn't really permissive.
That's a little sketch.
Yeah. So, and we did some ops out there too, you know, like more intel based snatch and grab type stuff. But so anyway, it got to the point where Maddie, because we were dating at the time, we met right before that deployment, was like, "Hey, I don't really know what you do, but I know it's probably not safe. So maybe you going out in town to go get dinner isn't a great idea.
Yeah.
And that was the first time in my life where I was kind of like, you know how it is when you're young in the Marine Corps or in the military, you're only living for you,
Facts.
whipping it on. And I had already made peace with like I was good being a name on the wall outside the headquarters building with my homies. Like glorious death. You know what I mean? Like I was good with it. So this is the first time in my life really where I met somebody who I really cared about other than my bros more than myself, right? And so I was like, okay, I won't go out. So they're all banging on my door. They want me to go out that night. I just pretend I'm going to sleep, right? So I go to sleep. Wake up the next morning. Shit show. So I run into two of my boys. They look like they've probably done something they shouldn't have done, you know, and I'm like, yo, you need to go to bed. You need to go clean up. And I go to assume watch. And when you're the battle captain, you go into the team room with all the computers. You got to assume command of all the ISR. You got the chat, all this stuff, right? You're who the teams check into. Like
You're getting debriefed on
everything.
what happened, everything. Yep.
So I get in there. I finally get that all sorted out of. I'm like, all right, I can just chill the fuck out, you know. And I'm gonna have my coffee. And there's frantic banging on the door, and I'm just like, great. Rip open the door, and it's a contractor. One of the other contractors, like, there's a dude in his room, and he's not breathing. And I'm like, sweet. And I'm like, where? He's like, down the other end of the compound. So I run down the hallway. They're having a convoy brief. I yell for the medic, the lead medical officer. I'm like, Ashley, it's medical emergency. Get the fuck down there. And then there's this other kid, a log kid. I was like, get a Hilux, drive down there. I ran to the BAS, grabbed the big medical bag, and sprinted all the way down there. And they're carrying this dude out, and he's blue, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so CPR is going on. I get in the front of the vehicle. I look at the medical officer. I'm like, where do we go? And she has no idea. She has no idea what we're supposed to do next. So I make the call, and I'm like, we're going to Kansoff because they have a Roll 2 clinic. So I floor it. We get over to Kansoff. We unload them.
How long does this take?
I don't know, 7 minutes maybe.
Okay.
Pretty quick. We just got to go out ours around the strip, and we hit a pretty bumpy road, and then we're there.
Okay.
Because that's where they fly all the birds into. So got over there, unloaded them, took it in, and now we're like outside the wire. Not outside the wire, outside our compound. I don't have a cell phone, like nothing else. So I like run over to the Kurdish Coordination Center, like call back, give an update, all this stuff. If it didn't go the way it was, like I probably would have gotten an award, you know, like not that I ever wanted any of that, but tried to do all the right things in the moment.
Yeah.
Got him there, everything else. Eric did the best he could with CPR on the way there. He did, you know, tried his best to revive this dude. Everything we could have possibly done. Dude doesn't make it. So there's this giant investigation. NCIS shows up. There's cameras in the chow hall. There's cameras everywhere. Like, I can't lie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And so there starts being a lot of like command influence and all this weird stuff. And they're like, if you positively contribute, like you're looking at not getting promoted, like all these things, right? So it sucks because you're not allowed to talk to your boys. They get sent out. You're not even done with deployment yet. All this shit happens. So everything shuts down.
Hey.
Everything's shut down. You're not allowed to go anywhere.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that the whole OPSEC sets in and they shut down everything?
So they get flown off for investigation. Like, we're still there, and CIS is interviewing us, all this stuff, man. And so I end up being like one of the only active operator dudes left there. And I'm just like, you know, like, dope. Got to go on a couple more missions with like agency dudes and stuff like that. And those are dope. Like, we got to fly around and bags of money and all those kinds of things that were sketchy and fun, you know.
Who were you delivering bags of money to?
People on the border.
Really?
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know the classification of it or whatever, but we basically took Land Cruisers, broke down. Who had to fix them? This guy.
Yeah.
Then they flew a helicopter in because they couldn't fix the Land Cruiser, and then all these lights start lighting up on the side of the mountain. I'm like, oh, good, now everybody knows we're here. You know, all those kinds of things. But basically, it went to this I didn't really know what we were doing because I wasn't read in, so I was like basically just security.
Yep.
So we get up to this place, and my buddy Nate, he's one of the spook types, goes into this hut with this guy to talk with a security guy from State Department and all these other things, and I'm outside with the vehicles, and all their dudes are facing inboard, and I'm like, if this was a good thing, you'd be facing outboard with me, not facing inboard, right? So I'm literally standing there with my M4. I'm like, all right, bro, like this is just a failure drill, right? Like beep, boom, boom, boom. Like I was planning what was going to happen, and it's raining, and it like literally surreal, right? Like I thought it was like I was literally about to have to drop 5 dudes.
So you guys are just having a stare
I had
down.
no idea what was going on, and we're just having a stare down. They're all facing inboard. There's one dude up there. There's one dude by the vehicle. They're spread out, right? And I'm trying to plan my drill, right?
Yeah.
And fingers on like everything. I'm ready to go. And Nate pokes his head out of Kwanzaa high. He's like, "Hey, everything's good. Just come inside." I was like, "Oh, thank God." Went inside.
Just like that, huh?
Gosh. Went inside. I'm like, "What are we doing again?" And he's like, "Oh, everything's good. Don't worry. I got to go take a tour of them tomorrow. You're just gonna stay here." I'm like, great. So all that happened. Went back. All those things. So
Is there a mission that stands out above them all? Like sketch wise, where you're just like, holy shit, how did we make it out of that one?
I think probably the two sketchiest things that like you just didn't know what was going to happen was definitely that Ugandan gate in Somalia, and then because you didn't know if they're high or whatnot either,
Yeah.
and then that one, right? Like
Yeah.
because I didn't really know why we were there.
Whatever happened to the contractor? Did they ever find out?
Yeah, so he died. And then I got home from that deployment, right? Like I think we had 2 months left. Finished that deployment up after that happened. Did some of those agency type ops, and then came home. And I'm like, dude, I'm getting out.
Yeah.
I'm over this. I even had a senior guy who I really respected, pulled me off of the bird right when I was about to leave country. He was like, look, you got a lot of potential. You're really good at your job. You're really motivated. You do all the right things. You just need to rein it in a little bit, because I was getting pretty over it. They were trying to do these op forward things to get officers medals and all, interfere with the team, and I was the guy that was like, this is absolute waste of money, man, resources, and you're interfering with the team's ability to do their op cycle. Like this,
You're putting dudes' lives in danger
I
because
don't
some
want to be a
officer
part of it,
wants
right?
a medal.
Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous. So like, I got pretty belligerent and vocal towards the end of it, and I didn't have my boys anymore, like all that stuff. So they pulled me off playing. I was like, look, Roger that, I get it, And if I could go back, I'd be like, look, dude, like, man to man, like, this is where I'm at mentally, right?
Yep.
And I think that's the thing the military doesn't do a great job of. I think if I saw a dude with a lot of potential like that, I would have done the David Tamanjan thing, where I would have been like, hey, bro, dude to dude, where are you at?
Yeah, go
What are you
take a
thinking?
break.
You know what I mean? Like,
Go
how
regroup.
can we work on this? Because you have potential, right? Like, how can we make this better? So I didn't really get that conversation. And it took me, so I got back stateside, all these investigations are happening now.
Over the contractor?
Over the contractor thing. There's adultery cases that popped up, all kinds of crap from that deployment.
Really?
And it had already been a thing where I had enough. And that was just like nail in the coffin.
You're done.
And so I was always that guy in the pipeline, even that when shit sucked, I just laughed.
Yeah.
Like, gotta do it anyway. Might as well have fun.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Could be raining.
I remember it was piss and rain. We're on Greenside during the pipeline, and the instructor's like, "Get out on the road in boots and utes," like, because they're gonna haze us, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's like day 8 out there, and I'm like, great, we just get hazed in between doing Greenside. Like, this is dope. And like rip the poncho liner off, take my shirt off. I'm like, let's go. You know what I mean? Like I was that guy.
Yeah.
Like if it's gonna suck, might as well be happy about it. But it took a dude that I really respected, that I worked at that training cell with, to be like, dude, you're one of the most negative people I know. And I was like, damn, bro, like that hits. You know what I mean? Like, then this isn't for me anymore.
So you knew it was time?
Yeah. So Maddie and I made a decision that it was just time. It was my time, and I was good with it. You
Yeah.
know, and so I ended up getting out, and my plan was to go back to school to be a PA. So I
Yep.
got to go to some pretty advanced medical courses. I like the medical stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, it's all dope shooting holes in guys, but if you can't plug them, pretty worthless, you know. So, so yeah, so I got out with plans to go PA school, and then obviously, like we talked about earlier, school wasn't that dope.
And that's when you were in Salt Lake?
That's where I was in Salt Lake. So
Yeah.
Maddie was actually a flight attendant for Delta.
How'd you two meet?
Mutual friends.
Okay.
So all that Salt Lake crew that I used to go visit all the time. She was just too busy hustling to be worried about dudes and stuff, you know.
sure.
So she actually became a flight attendant because she was scared to fly. So I was
Really?
like, that's pretty dope. And then she became a certified flight instructor and pilot.
Nice.
So I was already like, well, that's winning, you know. So we met through mutual friends. But so when we got out, we moved to Salt Lake. We got a condo together, and then kind of started all that. But yeah, that's kind of the military deal, I guess.
How was SEER? Okay, can we talk about SEER school at all?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, it's one of those things that I never got to experience, but I have
Yeah.
some buddies that have some pretty wild stories from SEER school.
Yeah, I got some stories to share school.
So SEER, break down SEER school.
So it's like your survival evasion school. So if you think about, probably for young people, the newest Top Gun when they crash
Yeah,
behind enemy lines, it's kind of like if you get captured, or if you
how to not get captured,
how to evade and resist, right?
or if you're getting tortured.
But we do level 3, so that's for the torture stuff.
Okay, can you talk about any of this?
Yeah, I think. I
Okay,
can.
cool. Okay,
so-
SEER school. So you show up.
So SEER school is part of our pipeline, and so you do some front end training, and then you kind of go into the prac app phase where you get captured and all this stuff. And that's when we were evading, and I talked to that dude on the side of the field, right? And he was like, "Why are we doing this?"
So they just drop you guys off, and you have to get it to a checkpoint, or
No, yes. So we had some checkpoints that we were loosely following, but really, we knew that we were evading until we got captured.
it's
Right.
just you. So you're gonna get caught.
And so you're getting rained on all the time, and it sucks. You're not getting any food, and you're not really sleeping. And, you know, SEER school for me sucked. People talk about, like, oh, man, we caught a fish. I didn't catch anything. You know?
So you're out there. How
Oh,
many
yeah.
days were you out there before you guys got caught?
I can't remember. It might have been a week.
Enough.
Long enough. Long enough that I remember sitting in the brush, and it just stopped raining. And we're in the swamps, too.
Okay.
You know? So you got to purify your water, and, like, it sucks. Everything's wet. Your boots are wet. Like, you don't have anything dry. And a cricket lands on my knee, and I grabbed it, and I put it in my mouth, and I could feel the energy release.
Really?
That's how starved I was. You know, like, I think we got back and I weighed myself. I'd lost 22 pounds. I was like, dude, if you want to lose weight, just don't eat. You know what I mean? Like, so
you know you're hungry when a cricket is.
yeah. So there's this dude with us, Kevin, and Kevin was super funny, and he's still in. He's at a higher level now, but he'd been saving his boots, his dry boots, his second pair of boots, until we got rolled up, because he's like, I'm gonna put them on so that I don't have wet feet when we're in our cells. You know, like, we knew it was gonna happen.
Okay.
I was like, oh yeah, all right. So it was like, it had been going on and on and on, and we're like, dude, when's this gonna happen?
Like, when are you
know
gonna
what I
get
mean?
caught?
Yeah, when are we gonna get caught?
So is it
So-
a benefit to get caught right away, or are you?
I think it's kind of planned. I think if you get caught early, I think they probably beat you and then send you back out there, you know?
Oh, okay.
So we weren't like trying to get caught. We also weren't not trying to get caught, you know? So, like, I remember it being, Kevin was like, we're definitely getting rolled up this morning. It's going to happen. I'm going to put my boots on. I was like, dope, dude. Yeah, put your boots on.
How is he planning getting
So,
caught?
so he puts his boots on. I don't know. You start losing your mind out there. There's guys that walk up to trees and think it's a vending machine,
Okay.
you know, like you're hallucinating.
Okay.
So he puts his boots on, and we're running down this road because we're trying to make up time without being in the swamp, and we're just booking it as road. And these headlights shine onto the road. A car's coming. So we're like, bail. So we all bail on the left, and Kevin goes right, and it's been raining the whole week. So the whole drainage ditch is filled with water.
He dives into
And all
it.
you hear is this giant splash, and my fucking boots. And we're all like giggling in the bushes, you know? And so then the whole rest of the time we're running that night, all you can hear is Kevin's boots squirching, you know? Like,
So now he's the wettest one out of them all.
Oh gosh, and we didn't get rolled up for 2 more days.
No. Oh, he's pissed.
Yeah, but Sears is an interesting one. It's definitely there's some guys that can go through it and just be like, oh, whatever. And there's a lot. I've always gone pretty full on in training, right? Like parasailing worked on me, Sears School worked on me, and you get put in a cell.
How big's the cell?
It's like a closet, and you're sitting on a cinder block, and you're not allowed to sleep. And they'll like randomly open a door, and if you're asleep, they'll spray you or beat you. Like you have a can in a corner that you can pee in. And I learned pretty quick that if you asked for water and they gave you water, you just keep filling up the can. And so then
Why?
Because then they let you go outside. So they put a hood on you, and you go outside, and all you can see is your feet. And I could tell what time of day it was. You know what I mean? And then you dump
Why-
your can out, and then
Oh,
you
so
go back in.
so every time you get
Every
to dump
time-
your
'cause you
can,
gotta
every time you
dump
fill it
your
with
pee.
piss.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and you don't need to go number 2 because you have no food in your system.
I was gonna ask how
Yeah,
you take
at least
care of
I didn't. So that goes on. You don't know at this point. You don't know what day it is. You don't know what time it is because they've gotten you so discombobulated.
Are they playing like loud music, like doing a bunch of
So
psyop
that
shit?
was like the screaming babies for days, like all that
Really?
stuff. Yeah, and definitely for me, it took a toll, right? Like I wasn't ever that guy for the most part in training. I took it pretty seriously. You know what I mean? Like I was trying to get out of it what I was supposed to put in. So they stick you in boxes that were super small and like lock them and
How
leave.
big? How big of a box?
Like your knees are up to your chest. Like you're shoved into a box. Your head's in there and your knees are up to your chest. You're shoved in a box. And then they'll beat you.
How?
And they'll question.
I mean, how physical are they getting with you guys? Like legit?
It's mostly open hand
Okay.
slaps, right? I think some instructors got some in, but it's supposed to be open hand slaps. But when you're there and you're starting to go through it, like you start looking at dudes' hands, and you're like, I don't want to get slapped by that guy.
Okay.
And most of the time, you get slapped by that guy.
So you're looking at the dudes that
So-
have
so
giant ass
you're-
mitts on them.
Yeah, so you get
Okay.
like smacked. You get smacked pretty good in the stomach. You get like smacked around the face. Like
Are they doing joint manipulation on you guys?
I don't think I had a lot of that, but I do know that if you did the wrong things, it could get a lot worse.
How so?
Like if you didn't kind of play the game right, or you try to fight back, or anything, it would get a lot more physical.
What was the game? I mean, are they trying to get you to give intel,
Information, yeah.
and then you just got to shut the fuck up,
Yeah,
or what?
you gotta either stonewall it or you're trying to sell them something, like so. And if you do a good job, if they think you did a good job, they'll give you a little ball of rice. So
Really?
go back to your cell with a ball of rice, and then when everybody's gone, you'd all lay down, and then you see all your buddies underneath their little wood doors, and he'd roll dudes pieces of rice across these gross ass floors with like pee and stuff, and like you're like, oh, this is the best. Still to this day, white rice. Best thing I ever had in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
That's how you know you're hungry. So you guys are all looking out for each other?
Yeah, so you like hook up your homies with rice, but you could only see like 3 dudes across from you, and you knew who was on each side.
Would you guys like bullshit at night, or were there
You
guards
could whisper,
there?
but dudes would come along and like rip you out of there. You know what I mean? Like, so you had to be smart about it. But I don't know. So
What was the hardest part of SEER school?
I think just that mental piece. You had like a code word if you started losing it. Some dudes lost it.
And what happens at that point? Are you done?
Just I think you get recycled maybe
Oh,
to another
God.
class, right? This was like the worst thing that happened in the pipeline.
it over again,
9-month pipeline, and you get recycled. And our class, our ITC class, I think started at 2 something, and graduated 40 something again, or maybe it was 60 something. Pretty over 50% attrition.
Wow.
So you got to show up every day with an A game.
Yeah, I would say so.
So yes, SEER school was not fun. We did like a ranger type interval too, which is all food depth, sleep depth, long movements, and that was like, I remember sitting in a foxhole at night with nods on, looking out, and you got like 5 minutes of sleep. Like it was calculated. Like they've done the studies to know how much sleep you need to not die but how much sleep you don't get so that you get sleep inoculation, so that you can function under no sleep.
Where things start moving.
And I remember looking through my nods and all these cartoons coming out from behind the trees. I was like, dude, why do people do drugs? Just don't sleep for 7 days. You know what I mean? Like, I was tripping balls. And I looked down at Dom again. Looked down at Dom. And it looked like the Cheshire Cat.
Really?
And I don't think we were supposed to have dip, or maybe we were supposed to have dip. And I had a can with me. And I remember I kept forgetting I had dip in my mouth. So I kept putting more dip in my mouth to try to stay awake. And I put the whole can in my mouth. And then I started like gagging. And then I was like spitting it all out. And Dom was doing his Cheshire Cat thing. And I like slap him in the face. He's like, bro, what are you doing? And then my buddy Harrington, who was playing the team chief at the time, grabbed me on the shoulder and I came out of it. He's like, you good? I was like, oh yeah, I'm good. You know, like,
God,
like, bro, why do hardcore drugs? Like, dude, just don't sleep. So there's a lot of stuff like that in the pipeline. During Amphib week, we were doing all of our we were one of the last classes to do fins at Onslow in North Carolina.
Okay.
Rest of the classes started going down to Key West in Florida.
Okay.
But we were tracking like a 18.5-foot great white shark that week on the Shark Tracker app that was off the coast. And the last ping was like within a nautical mile
of where you guys
of
are
where
going.
we were at. And it's like you get in the water at like 5:30 a.m. and you're finning 2K down the beach, like 150 yards out. Like you can't be just in the tidal, like you got to be out in the deep water.
This is my thing, right? Like I don't care how tough, how operator a motherfucker is.
No,
like,
I don't. That was my worst thing.
If you know there's a great white out there, I mean that's got to be in the back of your head the whole time. Lydia.
They
named the great white.
I think it's still alive. Look it up. Its name is Lydia. And what are you doing out there? You are finning. You're kicking on the surface of the water with a buddy.
Just splashing.
And you're just tethered to each other. And there's one instructor that may be out there with a jet ski, but sometimes there wasn't.
What are you guys wearing?
Camis with a like a wetsuit type thing underneath.
So you look like a seal just cruising.
Yeah, perfect, dude. And you're just pushing your fucking rucksack sometimes. You know, like it's just stupid stuff. I was like, man, this would be a feeding frenzy. And
there's no money, there's no job, there's no title in the world that was worth.
And the funny thing is, you go out and you would take turns. The whole pipeline, you would take turns pretending to be a team leader or a team chief, right? So different iterations. So somebody would have to assess the water to try to figure out which way it was drifting, and so you either run first or you swim first.
So you're running down.
So you run down 2K
using the tide
and then
to come
fin back 2K, right? So most of the time, they were wrong.
Oh, so you're fighting the current the whole time.
So you're out there for way longer, you know? And so I will never forget it. It was one time, my fin buddy's name was Sam, and we were finning, and you're just in the suck, right? Like I had sprained my ankle and I had duct tape like in the fin position.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, and you're just like you're just putting the pain in the orb, you know what I mean? And, we're finning, it's pitch black. All I can see is like dudes, you put a chem stick in the back of your boonie cover. All I can see is these chem sticks everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And I get smoked in the rib cage on one side. And I think I've drunkenly kind of swum into my fin buddy, Sam. I'm like, yo, bro, watch out. And he goes, what? And he's on my other side. So I got, and after that I went back and read, sharks, when they don't know what something is, they bump it. So I'm 99% sure I got bumped by a shark finning.
No, dude, no.
Yeah,
no.
I don't do sharks. The ocean. Maddie grew up in Hawaii. Like she surfed. All that. She's like, "Do you want to go surfing?" I'm like, "No, I'm good."
I do. If I and I've said this a million times. I feel like a rhino, Cape Buffalo.
Give me a gun or a knife. I'll try.
At least I can.
Yeah.
Like in my mind, I feel like I can juke something on land just enough to.
Dude, we are so insignificant in the
done.
water. It's
You're
ridiculous.
done, bro.
Yeah.
You're done. And then what? You're out there like Nemo swimming around missing
and
a
just
layer.
eating all your friends while you watch. Yeah, no way, dude.
No, dude. Not. That's why these people they're like, oh, shark attack. And I'm like, no shit.
So they do it. They do it in Key West now. At least you can see the shark coming.
Yeah.
You know? But the funny thing, the very last day of Amphib, there was a tropical storm coming, and we have all of our boats at this point, and we're all sitting on the beach waiting. And it's a mock mission, right? Like, so you got to go in, you got to find your target, you got to navigate, you got to fin in, hit it, come back, exfil. So we're all sitting on the beach, gnarly winds, there's giant waves, there's lightning. It's supposed to be this tropical storm. And this guy next to, I can't remember who it was, this guy next to me was like, they're not going to send us. They're not going to send us. I'm like, bro, you made it this far? We're totally going tonight. And they're like, enter the water. I was like, see, they went out there and guys' boats are getting flipped. They're breaking their noses on the gullets, and it's just absolute crap show. And I will never forget. I was.
So you had to go out through the surf and then swim back in it.
No, you had to go out through the surf, navigate all the way up all these intercoastals, hit fin in, hit a house, then come back, and so all in the dark. And I remember going out there, and we finally got through the surf zone, and all you could see is like every time lightning goes, you can see all the whitewash coming over, and I'm peeing myself trying to stay warm. That's just what you did.
Yeah.
But we did that entire night, and everybody was smoked, and like all this stuff. We get back, we're sitting on the bus, dude's just like starting to pass out, and I'm like, I'm having a goo, and chugging water. And I think I was sitting next to Dom, like we were pretty thick as thieves. I was like, it's not over, bro. It's not over. Something else is going to happen right now. Like, you better hydrate, And sure enough, the instructor walks on the bus, like, everybody get off the bus. And we had to go do an unknown distance fin. And that was just like a straight haze fest. Like, you couldn't go fast enough if you wanted to. Like,
I'm sure being an instructor there is glorious.
I think so. I did get to go be a instructor at assessment selection, and it was cool going on the other side of the curtain.
100%.
So, back when I got to go do that, it was cool because the team actually got a say in who goes through, who makes it, right?
Yeah.
You feel like your words have weight. But they're like everything, right? Like, I was definitely my time to get out of MARSOC. Like, I'm sure we talked about before. Like, it's so hard to like fill those numbers now, right? Like, especially with like the way the demographics going and everything else. But when
I'm sure they're struggling these days.
when we were there, there was one dude, and they dime each other out. So we're reading everybody's peer evals, like all this stuff.
As an instructor or as
an instructor?
Okay.
And so all his peers are like, hey, this dude went out drinking the night before the PFT, and he was throwing up, and that's why he sucked, and like he's not committed
so they're
to
just
this.
straight ratting each other out.
Yeah, and because I think when I went through the pipeline, I was like, bro, an operator is freaking Spartan, dude. You know what I mean? And I like to think that physical fitness, all those things. Like, I had a dude I really respected, told me like every single day you sharpen that blade. You know what I mean? And like, I took that dead ass, and so
I like that.
they'll dime each other out and stuff. And so that guy had DUIs. He had gotten in altercations with his staff NCOs, like on past page 11s and things like that. Like, we had his whole book, and I was like, we should not select this kid. He's a libo risk or operational risk waiting to happen. Yeah. And they ended up pushing him through. That dude died on a motorcycle accident, like, as soon as he got to the teams.
All that training.
All that for nothing, right? Instead of figuring that out and helping that dude, right?
Yeah.
Like, but there was another kid that went through, and he knew he was a stud. You know what I mean? The kid was talented. He ran everywhere on the land nav. He got all his points. He had his time. We were out there to this crazy apparatus this one time, and it's like you had to make a contraption to carry this super heavy drum or bags or whatever it was. Can't remember. And so it's like team building, right? Under stress and sleep deprivation and everything else and leadership. And the guy next to him on this apparatus, which is like, you also have a 45-pound minus water and everything rucksack. And you're carrying like a 500-pound apparatus amongst you. Like, it sucks.
Yeah.
And so some of them will be like, the rest plan is to stand there. Don't put the apparatus down. And you're like, it's a terrible idea, but now we got to do it because it's just a leadership thing. Mm-hmm. So you'll walk however far you can walk and stop, and you got to rest holding it.
Why?
Because this dude they're trying to put in a stressful leadership position made that call under stress. Terrible call, right?
Oh, my God.
Probably didn't get selected.
Yeah,
so
he's getting notes written.
So this kid was in the back, and I'm an instructor watching everybody, and and the reason they do this is because your true colors come out, right?
For sure.
Under that amount of duress and sleep debt,
You know
and
who a
pain,
person's going to be.
yes. So you can really get a good idea of how committed they are to team, how committed they are to self, everything else.
Which is important in your guys' world.
Huge, because you only have there's 10 to 12 of you.
Yeah.
That's it. You know,
you were depending on every person on your team.
And so, so the guy next to him, so there's two in each corner. The guy next to him gives out, falls down. He's like, can't do it anymore. You know, like, cool. If you're not black line, you know, and he's just standing there smiling. You know, he knows. He's like, God, that guy's a pussy. You know, and he's just holding it, and it's pissing rain, and I know because I was there. I was that guy. I was that guy laughing, and the instructor's like, "What's so funny?" I'm like, nothing, instructor. You know, like, but that's how I suffered, right?
Yeah.
Like, I had never. I suffered in pipeline for sure. That's not accurate. But running taught me to manage suffering. You know, and so I watched this kid just crush it the whole time. He made it. And he was going to go get on the bus with the selectees because they just put the dudes that made it on the bus to go back to North Carolina separate from everybody else. So he's about to get on the bus. I was like, hey, you, come here, you know? And I was like, hey, you're about to be, you might be a big fish in a small pond right now, but you're about to be nobody in a fucking ocean. You know, stay humble. You know, and pretty cool being able to be an instructor and really influence that. That dude came back to me in the gym at Marsoc right before I got out. He was like, hey, you probably don't remember me, but you said something that stuck with me in selection, you know, and I'm about to go to 1st Raider Battalion. And I knew who he was, but I was an idiot, you know. I was like, I don't remember you, you know, like, stay humble. Number? Yeah, stay humble. You know? But if he's out there, man, you know, that's the kind of guy you want. You know, that's the kind of guy you hope comes through.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy that will save your life.
For sure.
You know what I mean? But it was cool to see on the other side of the curtain how effective it is if you allow it to be.
For sure.
You know? But yeah, so I don't know. The best parts of the pipeline were probably, the pool is a great equalizer. I've never seen more grown men cry than at the pool.
Water will break you real quick.
So we're in a dive tank. You can't touch the bottom. You got to do like 3 of these to get to the bottom and touch it when you're supposed to touch it, right? And it was really where you weeded guys out. So they make the honeycomb. They'd like shove you all tight so you can't use your arms. So you got to like buddy yourselves up and down, you know. We had a dark green Marine, Wes, nicest dude ever. And he drowned the crap out of me in the pool one day. And he's like, I'm sorry, man, I'm black. I'm like, it's all right, we all are, you know? Like, I didn't grow up swimming, you know?
Bro,
and,
I didn't know that was a thing. No, I did not know. I got crucified. I made a comment not too long ago on social, and I got completely crucified for being a racist about this. But it was
But people don't know that all Marines are black. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right? And so, but like we got to boot camp, and I'll never forget, our drill instructor was like giving a speech like, okay, dark Marines. And I was like, what the fuck is a dark Marine? Yeah, dark green Marines. And I'm like, what is a dark green Marine? I didn't even know what they were referring to at this time. He's like, we got the pool tomorrow. Yeah. I know a lot of you, and he's black himself. He's like, I know a lot of you can't swim.
Iron ducks.
Yeah, and he's like, don't try to prove nothing.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this dude talking? Because I grew up on the St. Lawrence River, which is one of the most amazing freshwater rivers I think this country has to offer. So, whatever, right? Yeah. So we show up, and you know, when our platoon got to the pool, there were already recruits in the pool, and the whole shallow end, and all the black kids, all the dark green Marines are out.
I know.
And then I was like, holy shit, they can't swim. I'm like, why can't they swim? I didn't no idea. And I made some guy was like, oh, stereotypes and black people can't swim. And I was like, yeah, this is a thing. Like, and oh my God. But I wasn't trying to like jab it, but it was.
Wes is a hell of an operator though.
I'll
say that,
but it's hilarious because then after I'm like, why can't black people swim? It was just a thing. I didn't know. And they're like, oh, dude, we grew up in cities and all these. And so these dark green Marines were explaining to me that they just never grew up with a pool. Yeah. And it was hilarious to me because we're getting a brief from our black drill instructor briefing the dark green recruits. Right. You're not going to be able to, I know y'all, he's like, I know you motherfuckers can't swim. And I was like, well, what is he talking about? Like, I
back then it wasn't as big of a deal, but
now it's like, geez, I'll probably get flagged on this.
I'll say this though, I'll redeem myself. So we were all in the pool one time and we were all we're all treading water in the dive tank in teams, right? So we had team 1 through 4.
Yeah.
I was team 1. And you're all in a line, and you have to pass a rubber rifle in camis, treading water.
Oh,
You have
God.
to pass a rubber rifle back to the guy behind you till it gets to the end, and the guy in the very back has to swim 25 meters
To the
underwater
front?
to the front with the rifle.
And then pass
in
it back, or
camis.
what? Is this like a
And then
chain?
start over, yep.
Yep.
And so, like, it's pretty rough swimming 25 yards underwater, 25 meters underwater in camis. Doing it with a rubber rifle in your hand,
One-handed.
way worse.
Oh, yeah.
Your only hope is you go deep because it constricts your lungs, and if you have more ability to go further, right?
Got it.
So you got to commit to going deep, and there's a high chance you're going to black out coming up, right? Like,
Okay.
so we're in the water, and every time if anybody drops a rubber rifle, the entire team has to do a bottom sample. So you have to go all the way down to the bottom dive tank, touch the bottom, come back up, and tread water.
Are they watching?
Yes, there's instructors, literally instructors sitting on the bottom with their arms crossed watching, and they'll switch off, and they'll go down there, do another breath hold, watch. So like, if you
dudes
don't
are
touch the bottom of the pool, you're
machines.
getting sharked. The instructors are going to jump off and drown you.
Yeah.
Right? So it gets all the way back to this dude named Toby, and his last name was Waters. Ironic, right? And Toby was a wrestler. He was just a total ball
So he
of
swam
meat.
like a rock.
Just sank. And he's got these giant ass club hands, nicest dude in the world. And the rubber rifle gets to him, and he gets it, and as soon as he can't use his arms to tread water anymore, he sinks. He drops the rifle. And so they're like, down. So we go down, touch the bottom of the pool, come back up. And he's trying to get the rifle, can't get down there to get it. So we're doing bottom samples continuously. And so every time we come up, they go down and go back down, and so you're starting to get smoked. At this point, we've been in the pool for probably the entire thing, this entire duration, by the time we got out of the pool, some dude said it had been over 4 hours.
What?
We've been in the pool for over 4 hours and not touching the side of the pool.
No, dude.
So we, so he can't get it, right? And every time I go down on bottom samples, you're allowed to have goggles. Every time I go down on bottom samples, I can see the instructors just sharking this guy and grabbing his feet and pulling him down and all this.
And you can't go help him with his rifle?
Nope, can't. And so at this point, like, there's a couple of hard gates in the pipeline where they'll drop guys that just won't quit.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were trying to do at that point.
Is just see how strong he was?
So it just turned into a feeding frenzy. And finally he hits the side, he grabs the side of the pool, and it's done. Like, you're probably getting a slash on your record or whatever.
Yeah.
He ended up, I think, getting dropped in the shoot house. But yeah, that was like one of the most, I was like, man, if I can do that, then I'll be okay. If I'm ever in some water situation, that long in the pool, getting smoked that bad, like,
you can be the toughest human being in the world till you
Yeah.
get in the water. Because I thought I was a phenomenal swimmer. and
yeah, I definitely wasn't bad.
I mean, you remember McQuiz, right? And
Yeah.
So nothing compared to you guys, but I mean, fuck,
Yeah.
dude, the bricks and just
But in the pipeline, you don't have time to like get into, how it is. In the best shape of my life and on the teams, I could run the 3 mile in, I think, 17 teens. And then I could bench press 225 30 times, and I could swim a 75 meter underwater.
that's a distance.
And that was probably the best shape of my life. If I went up in lifting, something else suffered.
See, I was never a
I was
300
pretty
PFTer.
plateaued.
Because I
Big
could
dude.
was big, but I could do max pull-ups.
Yeah.
But I would sprint. The only thing that would save me was when I could get my run time up, my weight would be down. So
Yeah.
then I would always have to, but I knew I was one of those, like, this is just 3 miles. I'm going to sprint this
Yeah.
whole fuck. Because I was giant. So I had to, like, I couldn't, there was no pacing.
Yeah, that was Somalia, Phil.
Yeah, I would just, then when they would say go, I was the first, like, and I would try to keep that pace.
Yeah.
I was to do cross to the finish line throwing up because I can never hit the 300 because my weight was so much. I could never get, I would get like a 298. I was like that guy, like
Yeah.
a 297, 298, but I could never break that 300 because I was just so big, or when I wasn't being able to I couldn't do the 20 pull-ups, and then my run would be good.
Yep.
That was like the most
That's how it
frustrating
was then.
shit.
But to do that far of a swim underwater on one breath is a lot of chill and glide.
Yep.
You know?
Where you're just, then it's all technique too.
Yeah,
And then
so when you're getting
you tuck.
hazed, like you don't have any of that. And when you're in camis, you don't have any of that.
You're
You know what
just
I mean?
you're just trying to stay alive.
Yeah, it's just straight fear, you know.
You figure out who you are real quick in the water.
Yeah. But I'll say all this. So, you know, my new thing since I've gotten out that's really so when I first got out, I got involved with Notice Outdoors that kind of fed the warrior piece, right?
What is that?
So Notice Outdoors is a 501c nonprofit that gets soft veterans into bow hunting. So never bow hunted before. They get to 0 to hero.
Cool.
We monitor everything with an Aura ring. So we help them improve on baseline vitals so they're getting better sleep at night. We have SMEs come in to help with like TRT, counseling, all these
Nice.
things.
Okay.
So I try to bring functionality back to the home place and then give them a new core group of dudes. So when I got out, I got a bow and it fed that need for lethality. You know what I mean? That need to still be that hunter and that kind of dangerous dude, you know? And then since then, I've really come full circle to a lifestyle shift, and that really was promoted because of our kids, right? So like, I wanted to raise them somewhere where I didn't have to question what daddy did for work and what my friends died for and all those things, right?
Yeah.
Like it's okay to be a patriotic American, right?
For sure.
Like it's also okay to be able to kick dudes' butts as a girl, right? Like
For sure.
I want to raise some savages, but you know, that started to become my new purpose, and really getting into the cowboy type stuff that I do now. A lot of that mental resiliency through, you know, new and novice and challenging tasks. You know, I've been able to identify those things like we were talking about earlier that really have been able to transfer over to what I do now, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like starting a horse that's never been touched before has been huge for me because not only has it been able to like help me with my demons, but also it's something I've never done, right? So like to be able to harness that anger and frustration, but be critically thinking about how it works. You know, a lot of people just get on a horse and pull to stop, kick to go. But if you can actually start thinking about things in a more critical way, you know, the way that I've been trained to assess missions and all these other things, like you just get to a whole nother level. So that's kind of become like a new training purpose for me. I've been able to apply the ways that I was trained as an operator into these kind of new capacities, you know, like roping and all those kinds of things. So it's kind of weird how it's come full circle. But like you said earlier, I get to kind of pick and choose from what, you know, I did do and have done and apply it appropriately to what I'm doing now.
Well, I think when you do that and you figure it out, it makes us the best versions of who we can at least start to be instead of living that hateful, angry person. And it's like, okay, well, I'm this reason because.
Yeah.
But now there are some still good traits, and there's a lot of things that I've learned over those years.
Yeah.
But now that you put that away and you start picking those little pieces out, it's like, okay, like this horse is going to test the living shit out of me. And instead of me irritable, snapping, going straight to a whip, whatever, now it's like, okay.
But the cool thing too is I know no matter how bad things are now, like if I got to sit in a set, the first time when I did roundups, I had to sit on a horse for like a 20-mile day. By the time I got back, I had no skin left on the inside of my legs.
I've been there.
And what did I do? I put petroleum jelly on and I went back for more, right? Like, cool, this sucks, but I'm here for it, right? But I think being able to like know how to compartmentalize the suck and like embrace it, not only in track and in the Marine Corps and in special operations, like it's really I think what pushes me through, you know, difficulties. Now. So instead of looking at it as something I just suck at and looking at it through a lens of ego, I think I look at it as an opportunity to better myself in a new chapter.
For sure.
You know what I mean? But I also know that nothing will ever suck as bad as all those things that I had to go through.
Right?
No, you know, nothing will ever suck as bad as that one time in the pool, or I'll never be as cold as that one time in the ocean, or I'll never be as hungry as that one time in Sear, you know?
Yep.
All those things. So I think that's for me the resilience that it's brought and the perspective that it's brought is, one, how privileged we are to live where we live. You know, all those people that I've seen on deployment and everything else. And two, you know, nothing will ever be as bad as whatever I've had to experience in the past, you know? So, I don't know.
How is you take a guy like yourself that's special ops, MARSOC, done some cool shit around the world. How has having daughters changed you?
Oh man, having girls. Well, first off, I've always thought this, but I did see Tim Kennedy talking about it the other day. But I think most dudes like us have girls. You know what
My
I mean?
wife is convinced.
Yeah, and I'm kind of good with it. Matt, we're gonna have one more. And Maddie already knows it's a girl. I'm still holding out for a dude, but
My wife says all Marines. She's like, y'all are dirtbags.
yeah, I think God has a sense of humor.
He did. When we're done with this, ask Rich. She's like, it's all you same Marines. Everyone, all my buddies, daughters.
Yeah, God has a sense of humor.
Daddy does.
Sure. But I also think though that if God had given me a son first, I would have been a much different father.
For sure.
Not violent, but I think I would have held him subconsciously to a higher standard. You know what I mean? That wasn't fair for where he was at.
Yep.
And really having daughters now, there's still a standard,
For sure.
but I'm a much softer version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And like, call my number. Don't ever. My biggest thing I walk around telling people is, I will bend over backwards for you. I'll do whatever I can for you, but don't ever mistake my kindness for weakness. You know what I mean? But I have definitely become a softer version of myself. And Maddie it's not without practice. You know what I mean? It's not without humility. Mm-hmm. It's not without days of failure. But man, my two little girls, savages. Margot's running around the backyard butt ass naked, catching grasshoppers.
Yep.
She's got her bug box filled at the end of the day.
Yep.
She's out there wrestling them with dogs, growling at them. People are probably like, "What the hell?" No, we're growing up. She's being a little girl. She's been a kid. Mm-hmm. She's growing up a little feral, but man, she's a scrappy, fighting. And I haven't ever had to be like, "Hey, you need to toughen up."
Yeah.
She's exploring her world.
Yep.
And it's beautiful to see. She flipped over. We got a bench next to our wood farm table, and she flipped off that thing and hit her head. And my buddy Cope was here, and he was like, "Oh, you okay?" She's like, "I'm fine." And he knew it hurt, but he knew she was being tough.
Yep.
But she's being tough not ever because I've ever told her that.
Yep.
But
well, and girl toughness is just so much different, man.
But I told a lot of I told a lot. I know you'll get this. I've told a lot of people. My job now is to show my girls what a man is supposed to be.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So that one day, I already told Maddie, like, hey, I don't want him to go into barrel racing. Okay, like can we just not do that?
Nope.
Or rodeo queen.
Nope.
Like, let's get a flat brim hat and do some punchy roping and be a little dirty and questionable.
No barrel racing, though.
Yeah. So, but I tell Maddie this all the time. God gave me daughters because it makes me be the man an example of the man that I hope that they end up with, so that when boys come along saying that they are men, they can laugh and tell them that they're not.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that takes a lot of checking the ego, and it takes and I didn't necessarily have a great example of what to be, but I had a lot of examples of what not to be.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And I'm sure you can attest to this too. For me, the most savage team on the planet is a husband and wife.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I know Maddie would kill some of her bare hands to protect her girls. You know what I mean?
100%.
And she grew up white in Hawaii, so she was pretty scrappy. But you know what I mean? Like, we are fearlessly in the pursuit of something greater than ourselves, and that's our kids. And if you can show up every day and just try, you're doing better than 50%.
Yep.
I'm super fortunate in the fact that, Maddie has a remote job now. She put the flying stuff on hold for the family, has a remote job. I do some day work things while I'm trying to work on the next step, which we can chat about after this, and then we can talk about it more hopefully in the spring, but maybe a sponsorship for your podcast. But we're hustling, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I really think if you commit yourself to being parents, right? And you can say this because I know you're a great dad. Being a good parent is a pursuit of being selfless. Your life is not about you anymore.
Can't be.
It has to be about them.
And I think that's where a lot of parents, that's a huge mess
Yeah.
missed.
And you could sit there and be like, I got to go blow off steam. I got to go do this. I got to go, dude. I have,
No.
it's not an ego thing for me. I have FOMO for my own life. When I go, and every fall I got to go cowboy for a week straight. I'll still drive home every other night. I might get 3 hours of sleep that night, but like I get FOMO for my life.
Yeah.
I love my girls.
And I know people are probably like, oh, it must be nice, but it's, I guarantee you just sitting here and, getting it wasn't always like that.
And that's the hard choice.
Yeah.
Dude, showing up every day to be a parent is the hard choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's
it's easy to leave every morning at 9 a.m. and come home every night at bedtime and kiss them goodnight and live for the weekend. But I think that really deteriorates, I think, at the framework of what we're supposed to be as a human being, and what you're supposed to be bringing that family unit. That's what society's messed up, right?
That's where we lost big time. And because you're choosing
and then what do you do?
careers,
Somebody else is raising your kid.
a teacher,
Or TV.
some iPad, some electronic is raising your child. You're not home with them. You're choosing work. And I get everybody has their deals, but you can't bitch about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've made
It's sacrifices.
the sacrifice, and and I have these buddies, man, and they got the toys and they got the boats. They're out every weekend and
Yeah.
the big dually trucks and towing their brand new wakeboarding boat. And they got their ATVs and all. And I look at it, and I've never been the one to be like, oh,
Yeah.
But I look at it, I'm like, you don't have these two fucking kids sitting at home
Yeah.
because and you have all these toys and your kids aren't even with
It's
you.
real easy to be like, oh gosh, yeah, must be nice, But no, dude, I wouldn't trade for the world.
I wouldn't trade nothing.
And
I wouldn't trade nothing.
And I'll say this, dude, credit where credit's due. You're an inspiration to me.
Well, thank you.
Watching what these girls do,
Thank you.
and how they handle themselves, and what they compete in, and the discipline that they've already applied to their life, you're setting them up for success. You know what I mean?
See, you just need to realize that.
If I had somebody that came back to me as a boy and was able to mentor me and like, hey, this is how you should probably manage your money. Not like just put it in a piggy bank with no explanation. Like, let me teach you. Hey, how are you feeling? Well, you might be feeling this way because of this. Actually have a conversation, right? Like, and I think also being able to say like, hey, I'm flawed.
Yeah.
I'm fucked up, right? Like,
what's a big
I'm working
one?
on this.
And
I'm sorry.
You'll probably cross these paths as a father. What's really checked me, and with her sitting here, she knows this. There's gonna be times where you lose your cool or something happens, but it's being able to check yourself and check your pride and sit down and have that conversation.
Oh yeah.
But it can't be, I'm not saying it's every single, it's a weekly thing. Well,
Yeah.
there's times, you just lose your pressure, whatever happens, but to be able to, as a man, to sit down with your daughters and be like, hey, this is not right. This is a mistake that I made.
Yep.
For whatever reason it is. And that's when you really, I think, showing them that it's not okay.
Yeah.
This isn't normal. I should not have said this. That shouldn't have had that tone with this.
Absolutely.
And that's where you really, as a dad, where it starts to set in. It's like, okay, like that. Why? If not, why are we doing this? Like, everything's just a waste. If you're gonna,
dude, none of us are perfect.
Fuck no.
And I think just pretending everything is okay when it's not is so. It creates such messed up dynamics. But
it does.
Perfect example. Like I'm not perfect. I'm figured it out. I'm the longer I've been out, the more I think I have some really healthy outlets now. The horse thing.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna get into competitive roping this next year.
Cool.
To feed that whole piece with a bunch of prior veteran dudes.
Cool.
And so, I definitely have my things that help me calm down and funnel some of that energy into and everything else, right? And like, but I still have my shit days, right? And I'll sit down I'll pull Margot aside. She's 3.5. I'll pull Margot aside and be like, hey, I'm sorry for getting angry. And I'm doing better than I ever witnessed as a kid, right? Like I've never put holes in walls or nothing that, right? Like, thank goodness I've learned that control to that level. But like, I'll still lose my shit, right? I'll get pissed at something, never at her, right? But like, so I'll say, hey, look, I'm sorry for getting angry. It's not okay. You're a good girl. You did nothing wrong. It wasn't you. It was, and 3.5. I don't care. I'm gonna try to explain it. You know what I mean?
So you're doing it right. Go ahead.
But we went to go get feed the other day. We have to go get feed for our pigs and stuff an hour away because it's from a mill and doesn't have a bunch of junk in it. So we stopped at the gas station, like one exit down, for like 5 minutes into the drive. Stop at the one exit down, and Margot's got a water bottle. She dumps it all over herself. She's got her little ranch hat on, you know, her jeans, dumps it all over herself. And I was just like, oh gosh, I did wonder, you know, I tried to give you a cap and everything. I thought through this, but guess that's not okay either, you know. So I go in there and she's crying. I'm like, what are you crying for? You did that, you know, like, what are you mad about, you know? So I took it from her, like, cleaned her up a little bit. And then she's like, I need a drink. I was like, okay. So I handed her my Spindrift, right? And I go to pull the diesel pump out and put it back. And I go back, dumps it all over herself again. And I was just like, it's kind of day we're going to have. Kind of day we're going to have, you know? But a past me would have gotten mad about that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Not that she's wrong. Not that
it's just an inconvenience.
Just a stressful and a time thing. And like, you know,
irritation.
Like short circuit moment, you know? And so I went and got a bunch of the things to the windshield. I went back there. I cleaned it all up. I was like, you're okay. You know, this happens. And so we went I'll come back to this happens, but we went all the way to the feed shop, drove an hour to the feed shop, picked up feed. She had a lollipop. We had a great time. Got back in the truck, and then we're about to drive home. So she's been sitting in the truck now for an hour, went to feed, sitting in the truck for another 15 minutes. So that little girl's been sitting there since that incident for an hour and a half. Out of nowhere, she says to me, hey, Daddy, I'm sorry for spilling water and getting mad. A 3.5-year-old came to that conclusion an hour and a half after it happened.
They're watching.
You know, and I stopped the truck and I got teared up, you know, and I said, hey, it's okay. You don't need to be sorry because it's an accident. It's an accident, you know. And I told her, you know how much I love you? You know how you are my best friend. You know what I mean? You're a good girl. You know. And so, and then we went to the feed shop and, you know, I got her a toy. I didn't need to do that. I just wanted to do that, you know, right? But man,
they own you.
3.5 years old, bro. 3.5 years old. She's starting to articulate being sorry and being responsible for something and communicating feelings and emotions. You know, I took her on her first pheasant hunt a couple of months before that. I took Porter, my service dog. Porter's about to be 8. Changed my life when I went to school. Really looked out for me there. But we haven't gone hunting in a long time. We're a little fat. So I took Margot. She's got a little orange hat on. I just got my 12 gauge back from my parents that I had from when I used to run around with Bailey in college. And we're walking up the mountain behind our house to go look for some pheasants. And Porter's like peeing on a bush, sniffing over here, eating some deer shit. Not hunting.
Yeah.
You
just
know?
beat a dog.
And I'm like, oh, Porter, hunt it up. Like we used to do this, you know. We used to go hunt woodcock and pheasant and quail and all that stuff. And I'm getting pretty pissed, you know. Like I'm just shouting at the dog. Margot pulls on my sleeve. She goes, Daddy, it's okay. This happens sometimes. And I was just like, when did you get so wise? She's like, it's okay. And then she goes, Porter, hunt it up. You know, like. Goodness me.
Kids are amazing, man, and they're watching.
Beautiful.
They're watching everything. Beautiful. They watch how your relationship is with your wife.
Yeah.
They watch how you know, how you're communicating. I mean, that's been a big thing that my wife has pushed on us. She's like, these girls are watching.
Yeah.
They're watching everything. It's like, you know, one of the things, I'm very affectionate. That's my love language. My wife, I'll never not slap her ass. I'm never grabbing her, giving her all, you know, I don't care if the kids are watching, whatever. I'm going to love my wife, you know?
Absolutely.
But I want my daughters to see that where it's, I mean, they'll come home, I don't even see these people, we just spend the night somewhere. They haven't touched, I don't even notice it. You guys are, so if I want my daughters to know
that your wife's your best friend.
That it's okay to be affectionate. You show that love toward each other and to not like be so standoffish and thing. I mean, they're watching every single thing you do. And so as us as dads, man, we got to set, especially for daughters. I mean, we have to let them know what a true man is, how to be treated. That's why we had that video that went crazy recently of me talking about how if you're going to date my daughter, you're going to date me.
Oh,
and, man. Dude,
that resonated with me big time.
Well, it resonated.
I got two options. I either have to teach my girls what a man is. That's my responsibility. Or I got to lock them in. I got to start building a tower.
Yep.
because my girls are pretty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get you.
God got me twice. Got you twice.
I feel you. You know?
So,
But I got a lot of hate from it because like, oh, this is a way to drive your daughters away. Oh, they're going to be sneaking out. And I don't think a lot of, especially these, I don't want to say like simp men, but there are, man. They're pathetic dudes that can't understand. In the amount of comments that we got on it, but it's what I mean by it is like if you're going to spend that time, if I'm going to turn the keys of the castle over one day to the man that's going to step into that position, I want to know who he truly is.
Yeah.
And it's a scary world out there.
You're also holding a standard.
And these, you know, and everybody's obviously has their opinion and they can say whatever they want, but it's, you know, I want my daughter to at least have a guidelines of if this dude pulls up and doesn't get out to open your door, why are we wasting our time with this? If he's expecting you to split a bill, if he's expecting you to do the things that I have raised you that a man does, if this dude is pursuing and courting you and he wants you to be in a relationship with him and he's not showing you the most basic shit, why are we doing this, right? Yep. And so that's where it's like in these, oh, it's a little weird, you're going to date some teenage kid. Say what you want. Yeah. I'm not going to have some kid just coming up showing honking his horn.
That's the thing too, though, is your girls either know now for sure or they will know that for you comes from a place of love.
Yes.
And a lot of dudes, I think, see love and affection as a weakness. Mm-hmm. And it's as complete opposite.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And so I think, you know, just to explain, and I'm going to do the same thing for my daughters, you know, like, hey, you will know how to apply a tourniquet, you know how to deploy a pistol weapon system, you know how to do all these things, right? You will be a force multiplier and you'll be able to look after yourself. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you need to know that me teaching you all these things is important because it comes from a place of love.
Yep.
Me having a standard for you is important because it comes from a place of love. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not because I say so. I'm not and I'm not a hypocrite about it. You know, I expect myself to be at that standard too, right? Yeah. Like, but yeah, I think
you'll have people arguing. Oh, you can't set the standards for your daughter. The fuck I can't.
Yeah.
They're gonna pick who they want. They're gonna be attracted to who they are, right? Yeah. You can't change this as a dad, right? Yeah. That's one thing we have to accept. Our daughters are going to fall in love with whoever they choose to fall in love.
Yeah.
But I am going to do everything I can to set the standards for that man when he steps into my shoes.
Yeah.
Cool.
But that's the difference. There's a difference though between being personally invested in raising your kids.
Yep. Than just having an opinion.
Raising your kids and you being present for your kids and you showing up for your kids and you explaining shit to your kids and you loving your kids and you just walking around being a hard-ass dad.
Yeah. And I think that's how it comes off on you know, because they don't know me personally, which I get it, and they see just some clip of whatever it is.
I can definitely see, like, a kid going to school, right? You got a stereotypical kid, right, that goes to school, their dad was in the military. Mm-hmm. Their dad's a stickler about timelines. He'll yell at them all the time, like, my way or the highway. That's not a dad I am.
Nope.
I'd never want to be that dad.
No. I want my daughter, you know, to be able to go and meet and explore and live their lives. But while they're discovering themselves and they move out of the home, which I hope never happens, I want there to be one day where she's at a gas station and a guy approaches her and he has the respect and he does checks. So when she's sitting there processing wherever this is, church, whatever,
recognizes a man, not a boy.
Daddy shook my hand, looked me in my eyes, walked me to my car, made sure I left before he did. I'm going to be check. I want my daughters going through the same checklist that I'm going to go through for that dude. Yeah. I want him coming to my house, especially in the teenage years. If you're going to come and ask my daughter out and you're not going to come and approach me.
Basic criteria.
That's all it comes down to. Yeah. It's not, I'm going to be this.
Also, and that's a lot of, I think a lot of guys make excuses for being absentee fathers, especially in daughters' lives.
Yes.
Because they're like, oh, that's the wife's role. No.
No,
false,
it's not.
Bro.
It is. I feel
if you're not teaching, you as a dude, teaching your daughter self-value, bro, that's way more impactful than your wife trying to explain to them and them not just thinking, oh, I'm just pretty. No.
Yep.
We're talking about your full potential here.
That's where the biggest learning lesson that if my kids take anything from me is learning their value.
Yeah.
Because if a woman, young woman, knows her true value, she's not. There's going to be those.
But where
predators.
does that come from? It comes
Fathers.
from us.
Fathers.
That comes from us, dude.
It's us sitting them down. Hey, do you see how this is?
Yeah.
Do you see how that guy's treating that? We were walking in the village here. This woman's walking with this. I don't know if it was like a Xbox box. You know, it was a big box.
Christmas.
And her man's walking next to her, and my 10-year-old daughter goes, "Dad, why would he not carry that for her?" And I look at her and I go, "If your man never offers to carry anything for you, find a new one." And this dude, and grabs it. It took me and my 10-year-old daughter, hit her 10-year-old little girl, to call it the fact that this man is letting his chick hold this and it's a big box for her. She wasn't a bigger one. You could tell, and she's like kind of like waddling with it. He's just strutting along, and this little 10-year-old girl, and that's when I'm like, okay, it's working.
But that's the other piece to it too, is how, okay, I can sit here all day and say, hey, you're valuable, you're smart, you're pretty, you're driven, you're all these things, you're all these great, you're self-responsible, all these great attributes, right? Why does that hold any weight with you? It holds weight with you because they trust you and because you demonstrate that it's possible.
Yep.
Right?
That's what it comes down to.
So you are demonstrating that behavior exists.
Yes. And it's
not some fairy tale.
And it's not
real.
the world we live in now that it's cool for boys to be feminine and wear and put all this product and all this bullshit. Like, no, that's absolutely not. That is the agenda that this world and this country is turning to.
Yeah.
There's still good old boys out there. There's still men that are raising good sons out there.
Yeah.
May take a bit. Hey, if you're gonna go and date some guys and you're gonna go through the douchebags. We were those kids once.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were those boys, and I understand that. As, you're gonna be this guy. I was that little motherfucker.
Oh yeah.
It took me a long time to grow up, even in the Marine Corps.
I was a turd in the Marine Corps. Yeah.
I was piece of shit. Even long afterward, into the early days of our marriage, I was piece of shit for a long time. Took growing up, maturing, but I can wing that shit out in a fucking heartbeat.
But I'll also say this too, like my wife 1.0 was a great girl. We weren't, too much had to change from each one of us to accommodate the other.
For sure.
You know what I mean? I can say without a shadow of doubt that Maddie is my soulmate.
That's good.
You know what I mean? So I can look at my girls and say, hey, there's something that is meant exactly for you out there.
Yep. And they're gonna watch that.
And you can sit here and you can settle. You can try to make it fit in a box. But what are you doing? You're gonna build resentment. You're gonna build all these things that don't serve you.
Yep.
You're never gonna be lifted to the height that you're supposed to be.
Yep.
Right? Like, there's a lot of A-type dudes that can't handle a strong woman.
No.
I'll say it.
And I worry about that with them because
But that's another piece of the lesson that we have to teach. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of A-type dudes that don't appreciate a strong woman.
they're threatened.
Which boggles my mind.
Bro, my wife will outperform me on everything, and I'm cool with it.
I joke about it all the time. I'm like, I used to be the badass one, but my wife is now.
I'm cool. I'm one of those dudes. My wife's like, "Don't say that." I'm like, "Honey."
Dude, Maddie's at home right now starting her own company. She's a freaking gangster, bro.
Oh, your wife makes more than you. Fuck, I don't give a shit. We work together.
And I'm like, I think I might go compete in these big loop ropings that like some of the biggest dudes in the country compete in. I've never done. She's like, yeah, why are you even questioning that?
Yeah.
She supports me in everything.
Yep.
I support her in everything.
Yep.
And we both are aligned on the bigger picture. I think the only thing that Maddie and I don't agree about is she likes Brussels sprouts. Like, that's it, bro.
Yep.
But she's an absolute savage.
Good.
I'll add this one last thing about the kid thing. But when I was previously married and through my 20s and everything, I thought for a long time kids was just the next thing to do, right? Society is like, hey, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, and raise them and die, right? Keep working, please, and then die. But now I met that woman, and I was like, yo, the world needs more of this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's why I wanted to have kids, because I want to make more of her.
Yep.
I want to make more badass alpha females that will never let a man make them smaller than they are.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That will only make them grow. And goodness me. I mean, that's why I said earlier, I was like, yo, People think special operations teams are badass. You know who I'd trust in a foxhole with me?
Fucking mom.
I'd trust my fucking wife, bro.
Yeah, a
My
mom
wife
that
is a
has dealt,
savage.
a wife that has dealt with our shit and raising
Yeah.
two badass girls.
She
Dude,
can
I'll
deal
take
with
that
my
all day.
psychotic ass and kids and a farm and a milk cow. Bro, I'll take Maddie any day, dude.
I'll tell you this, man. It seems like you're on the right path, and from my hard lessons, shut the fuck up and listen to them when they get older, especially when those hard times and those hard conversations come
Oh,
into
daughters?
it.
I'll pocket that away.
Just listen to them, man.
Yeah.
It is, especially us being that protector. You know, and I said it in that one podcast. Like, my job is to be their personal security guard forever.
Dude, I take that dead ass serious.
And you know, and well, they're gonna have a man one day. That's great. I'm still watching. That's just who I am. I can't, like, my wife and I were talking
That's the
about last
fire
night.
watch that never stops.
My wife and I were talking about last night. I was like, I feel that we're gonna be the most amazing grandparents. Because I feel we're doing a decent job as parents.
Yeah.
When it comes to the grandparents, I can't wait for it. I can wait.
Yeah.
But like when that day comes, like I'm gonna be so stoked for it because I hope that we've instilled those values on them to be able to, when they have that family, it's a prideful thing. It's something that is, it was the right time and everything's going. And obviously you're never ready for kids, but I want them to have that core family values when they bring the next generation in. And
that's the word, bro. Generational trauma is a real thing.
for sure.
And I think this goes for everything. I learned this in the pipeline. Like, you can either be a victim of your circumstance or you can use that thing to propel you to another level. You can sit around, you can wallow about the fact you have a TBI. You can identify as a TBI survivor. You can make excuses for your behavior because of a TBI. Or you can say, hey, I got this thing about me. I need to fucking work on it so I can be better because of this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the difference in being, you know, especially a parent in today's age. You know what I mean? Like, we came from, you know, kind of emotionally unavailable parents, right? Like, hey, you need to go work, you need to do this job, blah, 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 because their parents were like that, right? And so to really break that mold, we have the space and time, if you just put your phone down, to be able to really raise your kids.
It comes down
and make an example of what they should then do. So they do have a roadmap.
Yes.
Because we didn't.
Yeah. I think if parents really just stuck it in their heads, I want to raise children that I want to be around.
Yeah.
And but here's an iPad, here's a TV, here's the remote, here, go to school. Oh, I get to see you for 30 minutes a day. And then they're like, God, I can't. I mean, I used to work with a dude that had a counter on his phone or on his computer every day when he would log in. It would tell him how many days until his youngest kid was 18 and he was kid free. And I remember I came home and told my wife,
Bro, I will break down. A piece of me will die that day. You know what I'm saying?
I am dreading the day when she or my youngest have to leave. My wife is going to be an absolute train wreck. I am going to too. I'm not admitting it yet.
There's no but
that's who you want as children.
Yes.
I want my kids to come. I don't want my kids to leave. Like where you're at right now, that we're burning the bridges. We're working on maybe heading back east so I can get closer to my parents. But I want that enough where, hey, you have all the property in the world enough. I'll build it for you.
Dude, that's my goal.
Don't leave. Yeah. You have a home here. I don't ever want you to leave.
Our goal as a family is to create a dynasty and a legacy that we can just not hand, right? Because that's the other piece that we have to run into as parents is, hey, how do we teach you the hard lessons to appreciate the complexities of situations and how good you do have it and how hard you do need to work without just giving it to you, right? And without you having to go through them all the way, right? And so that's the hard thing for me now is like, hey, I know what I'm going to build. You know, I will have a generational ranch that isn't just cows and everything because it's not a sustainable model. I will have some place that helps people and has a sense of service and all these things that is kind of my legacy and Maddie and I's legacy. I will have something that is sustainable for you to pass to your kids.
And people, I think...
And you'll be involved in it enough that you'll have buy-off in it, right?
For sure. And I think people, when they start talking about legacies and passing on, they need this huge amount of wealth.
Yeah.
Man, it's time, love,
Yeah.
and just caring and that compassion toward a family, that's the legacy,
Yeah,
right? That's
you see it all the time. What does that kid say to the wealthy dad when he says, "Hey, if you could have anything in the world, what would it be? Your time." Bro, it blows my mind how people can just, "Hey, it's Saturday, you're going to go to the babysitter." Bro, you worked all week. You weren't around your kid. You can put your kid at a babysitter today?
you'll never.
Bro, it
So
blows my mind. But it's difficult. There's a big piece in the cowboy ag space right now is like, hey, the entire reason you're building what you built is for your kids. If you can't slow down and take your kid to go do chores, what are you doing it for?
Yep.
You know what I mean? If you don't slow down and take your kid to go do what you're doing, if you don't involve them in all aspects of your life, you're missing right now. Right, I tell Maddie all the time, like, yo, gosh, today was hard. Today was rough. Today was a marathon. You know, today was not graceful. But we have to remember that right now is their childhood.
Yep.
Right now is their childhood. How are they going to remember you? They going to remember you at all? Have you been around? Who were you? What were you doing? What decisions were you making? How are you acting? How are you treating people?
All for money.
For what?
For what?
Yeah.
And it's sad because a lot of it's money.
Yeah, and you can't take any of that with you.
Nothing,
The only
man.
thing you can leave behind in this place is your kids.
Yep.
If you're not putting everything into them, on earth is your purpose here?
Yeah. And my wife and I all the time, I'm like, you'll see, especially, I mean, you kind of live out in the boonies, but, you know, us being here, one of our biggest problems why I have a hard time associating with people is because they're kids.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that kid sucks.
Yeah.
Interrupt, they're loud, they're throwing shit, they don't listen.
Oh, it's so hard, though, because it's not their fault.
It's not. And it's the parents' fault.
Yeah.
Shitty kids come from shitty parents. I don't care
Absolutely.
what anybody says.
Yeah.
I don't care any
But I've
disorders.
been that kid that's angry and hurting, that had nobody to talk to. You know what I mean?
Just talk.
Yeah.
It's amazing of what you can figure out, what you can learn by just sitting down with your kids and having a conversation with them. But building that trust.
Yeah.
And then because there's going to be a time, especially as a dad, and the boy, dude, it's like full rut, man. It's like one day.
I don't know. I feel like I'm going to have to deep install. You know what I'm saying? She doesn't know what I'm saying, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, 100%.
But,
Dude, by that time, you know, you
I'll be
100% on the
you
right
already
track.
got the truck. We'll keep Black Ops Black.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, you know, so it's just, dude, just take the time as a dad that has fucked up a lot. But I've learned a lot and had to swallow that pride and become who I am now as a man. Just listen to them. And it's going to be hard. And you're going to have some really uncomfortable conversations, especially as a girl dad.
Yeah.
And they start developing and becoming young women. It's fucking awkward.
Yeah.
But you just got to be there.
But it's human, dude.
It's human.
It's human.
And you got to make them feel human. And it's not weird. And then when that freaking rut switches on and dude, it's just like overnight. They'll leave the house, they come back one day and there's a trail of them and they're all lip curled and you're just like, God damn, here we go. Oh man. And my wife's like, it's this letter, dude. You've created this.
So how many years do I have?
Bro, when was it for you? Like that 15, it's hard. That's
Oh my
full
gosh,
blown,
okay.
bro. Full blown.
Shoot.
Just
got
get
12
ready.
years.
Just get ready. It comes quick too, man.
But
It's fun though. It's fun, and then when you enjoy being around your kids and you can take them everywhere with you, it doesn't life is great.
yeah.
Life is great.
We're always going to fall short, and this
sure.
is I think what probably brings it all together is if you are stuck somewhere in your life idolizing the person that you used to be, you're not only doing a disservice to yourself, you're doing a disservice to your family.
You're not growing.
You know what I mean? If you're not exploring things that make you tick and getting control of them, if you're not figuring out how to openly love more, if you're not figuring out how to communicate better, if you're not being an example of what it is to be a husband and wife, to be a dad, to be a son even, to be a friend,
Yep.
dude, you're not only failing you're failing all the people that look up to you, and especially your kids. You know what I mean? It's
Because they're watching.
and what's, bro, goodness me, it's like, what is the point of having a kid if you're not going to raise it? You're going to pay somebody else to raise your kid, and then you're going to get pissed when your kid does act out and fuck everything up because you weren't there
Or not listening
to be
to
an
you.
example.
Or rebelling, and
Yeah.
why? I don't know why my kid's like this. Because you don't know.
We directly influence the next generation.
100%, man.
You know?
It's up to us.
Yeah.
I'll leave it on this, man. I just don't want. And kids will make mistakes.
Yeah.
That's part
Bro,
of
we
growing
all
up.
will.
That's
Human.
part of growing up. And, once you realize, okay, cool, you're gonna make mistakes. Overcoming those mistakes, not making the mistake again, that's what we need to learn. But I want to be able to send my kids off anywhere, sleepovers, events, sporting. I want them to be able to represent us.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about, hey, how was it? How were they? Were they okay?
Yep.
I want every parent coming back, God, dude, your kids spot on every time.
I can relate it a lot to a horse. A young horse doesn't know a lot of things. And you actually get to a point when you work with a horse that you look for mistakes and you don't look for wins, because mistakes are teaching opportunities. Mm-hmm. And if you can start to flip the narrative and be like, hey, this mistake is actually an opportunity for us to communicate, for us to grow, for us to learn.
Yep.
So that then when they see it being done wrong, they now know what right looks like. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If you walk around and expect perfection all the time, which is very militaristic, and it's not, it doesn't exist.
No, it does not. It doesn't even exist in the military.
Yeah, you miss the opportunity to really create individuals that can think for themselves, but also look after themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're doing,
And it's fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy it, man.
It's what's most important.
I'm excited for you because you're just, being a young dad.
Yeah, we'll talk again in 5 years.
Start the journey. Yeah, we'll talk. I'll let you know if it worked out or not, if you should shift gears.
Yeah. I'm lucky. You go first. You give me your notes. Yeah.
Hey, shift fire, bro.
Yeah.
It didn't work, but man, I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it.
I know you had quite a drive and probably get you back on the road, but
no.
Dude, thank you for your time. This is a good one. I love watching. I'm gonna be watching, and where I'm at, dude. You got my number. If you ever need anything or got any questions or just need to shoot the shit over having being a girl dad, because we're the best,
dude. Dying breed.
We're the best, man. We were change that. We were handpicked for a reason, but yeah, man.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
I appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate you.
Thanks.
That was good, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
Too easy. Yeah,